Chapter 363. The power that burst out in an instant was too amazing. The strong wind surged in all directions, blowing up the surrounding floor tiles. Jin Taiyong, who was in front of Cheng Lingsu, was blown back and rolled a few times. Then he slid more than 10 or 20 meters away before he stopped. At this point, the light dimmed, the whistling of the strong wind stopped, and the flying floor tiles fell to the ground. All the people present were shocked. What kind of power is this? Everyone on the rostrum stood up. How can a junior general-level warrior release such a powerful force? The representative of the military said in shock, his eyes full of disbelief. This was too amazing. It doesn't make sense. This girl is just a junior general-level warrior. No, this is definitely not the power of a junior general-level warrior. I'm afraid this level of power has reached the level of a demigod, right? The representative of the police force couldn't make such a lethal move, and he was a demigod. Someone shouted in surprise, "Doctor, doctor!" Hearing the shout, the military doctor rushed over in a hurry. Jin Taiyong's face was purple, and blood kept pouring out of his mouth. His internal organs were seriously injured. The military doctor made a prompt decision and said, "Send him to the hospital immediately." Good, so strong. Lu Chunchun captaining, and the others were really shocked. Was this the power that a human being could release? It felt like a grenade had exploded. Not to mention the audience. Even Cheng Lingsu herself was dumbfounded. Others might not know, but she was very clear. Just now, she could clearly feel that it was the power of the bead hanging around her neck that had burst out from it. Good job, good job. The representative of Pantheon creatures was very excited. To be able to release such a powerful force at a critical moment. A demigod was already beckoning to this little girl. No, to be more precise, she was the seed of the gods, a person who had the chance to become a god. What a magical and powerful power. Cheng Lingsu calmly accepted the leader's praise, but her heart was unable to calm down. Her sister's amulet was so powerful. Where did she get it from? She didn't believe that she got it from a temple. She thought of a person, her ex-husband, who was known as the strongest person in China. Who could make such a thing? He was the only one around her sister, and it could only be him. Jiang Xiu furrowed his brows. When the power of the Niden formation erupted, Jiang Xiu had already recognized it. It was a talisman formation unique to Tianxing school. He couldn't be more familiar with it. A trace of anger flashed in his eyes. It was the amulet that he had made for Cheng Lingran. Now it was worn on Cheng Lingsu's neck. Did he deserve it? Cheng Lingsu wins this round. Cheng Lingsu turned around and returned to her resting area without saying a word. Su, the Cheng family members surrounded her excitedly. My daughter is so awesome. Sun Xiaohong was so excited that she held Cheng Lingsu's beautiful face in her hands. Yi Wenchun, who was standing at the side, looked at Cheng Lingsu differently. Originally, his strength was above Cheng Lingsu's, but the power that Cheng Lingsu released just now completely destroyed his confidence. Although he was disappointed, he was also happy. After all, she was his goddess, and he had the chance to get her. Su, well done. Cheng Lingsu didn't smile. She pulled Cheng Lingran aside and asked, Sister, tell me the truth. Did Jiang Xiu give you this bead? Cheng Lingran couldn't help but smile. I got it from a temple. Sister, do you think I'm 3 years old? Cheng Lingran said helplessly. Minor repairs gave it to me. He said it was a protective amulet, and he got it from a temple. You believe that? Su looked at Cheng Lingran and nodded. She felt a slight pain in her teeth. Sir. The crowd parted to make a path. The officer of Pantheon creatures, Wang Kai, came in person. He was in his 50s, and he was in the prime of his life. However, he didn't look too good, and there was a group of people beside him. Cheng Lingsu saw him, and quickly went to greet him. Officer Wang. Wang Kai's eyes were filled with anger. Cheng Lingsu, I'm asking you a question. Answer me honestly. Everyone felt that the atmosphere was a little strange. Cheng Lingsu nodded. Are you Jiang Luoxia's wife? Cheng Lingsu's face turned pale. She knew that the inevitable had come. When she joined Pantheon creatures, she filled in the marriage column as unmarried. Before Cheng Lingsu could speak, Sun Xiaohong said nervously, Sir Su has divorced him. She has nothing to do with him anymore. Wang Kai stared at Cheng Lingsu and said, "Answer me." Cheng Lingsu bit her red lips and said, "Yes, but I've already divorced him." "How dare you hide something so important?" Cheng Lingsu said, "I didn't hide it on purpose. I thought he was dead." Wang Kai said, "Then let me ask you again. What you just used, was it Jiang Luoxia who taught you?" Cheng Lingsu shook her head and said, "No, he didn't teach me. I found out I was a god's discoverer after he died. Besides, why would a selfish person like him teach others the skills he relied on to survive?" "So you're saying it was your own?" Cheng Lingsu nodded solemnly. Her beautiful eyes were very sincere. This was what Wang Kai was willing to believe. In his opinion, no one's martial arts skills could be so powerful. This was common knowledge in martial arts. Only a special ability awakened by one's own god's discoverer could achieve this. Jiang Luoxia is a big taboo. Do you understand? Cheng Lingsu nodded. "I understand. I've already cut ties with him." Sun Xiaohong was afraid that this marriage would hinder Su's future. She hurriedly said, "Boss, if you don't believe me, I'll go home and get the divorce certificate for you." Wang Kai finally smiled and said, "That's not necessary." What Pantheon creatures was afraid of was that if they took in Cheng Lingsu as Jiang Xiu's wife, people would associate Pantheon creatures with Jiang Xiu. Since they had already broken ties, how could Pantheon creatures push a talent like Cheng Lingsu to another organization? Cheng Lingsu, perform well and win glory for Pantheon creatures. If you take first place, your demigod martial arts will increase your strength again. When the time comes, you'll have a high position in Jiangnan's Pantheon. Cheng Lingsu heard this and was overjoyed. Sun Xiaohong and the others were also very excited. The competition was still going on, and there were many people competing. Cheng Lingsu, on the other hand, had become the most popular person in this exchange because of her earth-shattering attack. Cheng Lingsu wins. Cheng Lingsu wins. After Su won the 5 mains in a row, the crowd was in an uproar. Lin Jianjun, who was originally the most popular person in the army, was also defeated. No matter how strong the opponent was, under the power of her powerful talisman array, they were either killed or injured. Wow! Cheng Lingran was so happy that she almost jumped up. What place is she? What place is she? She's already in 3rd place. Ouyang Qian's eyes were wide open. She could not calm down for a long time. There was still one more round. If Cheng Lingsu won another round, she would be able to take the crown. According to the momentum of her previous opponents, it was only a matter of time before she took down the last opponent. The last opponent is Qin Tianhao from Preqin Biotech. At the police station, Lu Chunchun said, "Cheng Lingsu is really too strong. Her strength is far beyond the group below 30 years old. Even the group above 30 years old might not be her opponent. How can the power of her moves reach such a terrifying level? It's too unreasonable." A policewoman at the side was about to cry. The highest combat power shown on the detector was 122,7328 points. It was more than 1.2 million points. The highest combat power of her opponents was not more than 100,000 points. The gap was too big. Her opponent in the finals is Qin Tianhao. Jiang Xiu's eyes were as indifferent as water. Qin Tianhao is out. He's an advanced warlord, close to a demigod. Moreover, he's a direct descendant of Preqin Biotech, and has demigod martial arts techniques. He definitely can win. He has never shown his demigod martial arts techniques before. He can't hide his demigod martial arts techniques when facing Cheng Lingsu in the finals, right? Countless people were paying attention to this battle. "Tianhao, you can do it." A beautiful girl cheered him on. Qin Tianhao lowered his head and seemed to be hesitating. The beautiful girl looked at him anxiously and shouted at him. However, Qin Tianhao did not seem to hear anything at this moment. He could not see the crowd around him. He closed his eyes and said slowly, "I admit defeat." The thunderous cheers and cheers stopped abruptly. "I admit defeat." Everyone present was stunned. He did not even have the courage to fight Cheng Lingsu. Qin Tianhao's father from Preqin Biotech stood up on the rostrum. He looked at his son angrily and said, "Say that again." Qin Tianhao lowered his head and said, I'm not her opponent. I admit defeat. Ha ha ha. Wang Kai from Pantheon Creatures laughed proudly. It's right to admit defeat. In front of Cheng Lingsu's demigod martial arts techniques, you'll only be seriously injured. You might even lose your life. Then let's announce the result. Many people on the rostrum looked at each other. The deputy provincial secretary, who represented the province of Jiangnan, and was also the highest-ranking official present, said, "The final result will be decided by the main judge of the competition. It's useless for us to say anything." Hearing this, the people present realized that the seat in the middle had always been empty. There was only a main judge on the table. Yeah, wasn't there a mysterious main judge? Where is he? Lei Yiming, the military representative, said, "Where's Jiang Luoxia? Is he coming or not? If he doesn't want to, then don't take on this burden. Does he still think that he's Mr. Jiang? Is this a joke?" The main judge was Jiang Xiu? Cheng Lingsu's expression changed. She looked at the deputy provincial secretary in disbelief. Chapter 364. Wang Kai from Pantheon Creatures glanced at Cheng Lingsu meaningfully. This gaze made Cheng Lingsu's heart inexplicably tighten. She heard Wang Kai ask, "The main judge is Jiang Luxia?" The deputy provincial secretary said, "Why don't you know?" Wang Kai shook his head. This was an official exchange. No matter how famous Pantheon Creatures was, it was still a private enterprise. The provincial government would certainly not inform him. The deputy provincial secretary said, "Make a call and ask if Jiang Luoxia is coming or not." "I've asked. They said that Jiang Luoxia is already here." "He's here." A voice sounded from the broadcast. "Mr. Jiang Luoxia, please come to the rostrum immediately. Mr. Jiang Luoxia, please come to the rostrum immediately. There's an important matter for you." As soon as the voice from the broadcast spread, the venue was suddenly in an uproar. Jiang Luoxia's reputation was too great. The #1 expert in China was not self-proclaimed by Jiang Xiu, nor was it given by the martial artists of China. It was given by foreigners. Now many top experts were full of admiration for him. Although he was crippled, it did not affect his popularity. "Jiang Luoxia is the main judge? Where is he? I've never seen him before. I really want to see him. I want to see the glory of the #1 expert in China." The crowd was excited. The broadcast repeated again. "Mr. Jiang Luoxia, please come to the rostrum immediately when you hear this." In the stands, a figure slowly stood up. "Call me." The people around looked over. Lu Chunchun said, "Are you crazy? Sit down quickly. What are you making a fuss about? You're upset that she got first place, right? But this is really not the place to make a fuss." The male police officer said, "His name is Jiang Luoxia. Jiang Luoxia, who dominated Jiangnan in the past." Jiang Xiu said, "I am." "You haha." The people around roared with laughter. Jiang Xiu ignored them. He limped toward the rostrum with one leg. Captain Ing was a little anxious. "Hey, this idiot is really going." "Idiot, come back quickly." Lu Chunchun looked at his lonely back and couldn't help but be stunned. Slowly her eyes widened. She remembered something that Jiang Xiu said to her. He said that half of Jiangnan used to be his, and the only person who could really do this was Jiang, Mr. Jiang of Jiangcheng. And coincidentally, Jiang's surname Jiang was also Jiang. His surname was Jiang City's Jiang. Oh my God! Lu Chunchun felt a violent impact on her mind and couldn't help but cover her mouth. He is Jiang Luoxia? Once upon a time, Jiang Luoxia was a god in her heart. Although she hadn't been in this industry for long, after hearing about Jiang Luoxia's deeds, she was deeply shocked. He was like a god standing in a corner of her heart. It can't be. Countless pairs of eyes looked at this ordinary but limping man. If there was anything outstanding about him, it would be his appearance. The sun shone on his body, like the afterglow of the setting sun. The sun was setting in the west, revealing a sense of sadness. It was said that Jiang Luoxia was crippled, but such a powerful person in the past had fallen to such a state. It made people sigh. Some women even wanted to cry. The hero of the past had fallen. Minor repairs. Cheng Lingran looked at him with an indescribable feeling in her heart. It should be an honor to be the main judge of such an important event, but when everyone present saw him, they felt sad. They felt that a hero had passed his prime. Humph. Yi Wenchen, Ouyang Qian and the others were disdainful. What qualifications does he have to be the main judge? He is a waste. The people on the rostrum also stared at Jiang Xiao. Jiang Luoxia's name could be said to be like thunder, but they had never seen him before. They were also very curious. What did this legendary figure look like? Deputy Provincial Secretary Wang Jiming frowned and said, "Come and announce the results. Everyone is waiting for you." This Deputy Provincial Secretary had seen Jiang Xiao for a while in the West Manor. Jiang Xiao came to the empty seat. After Cheng Lingsu passed the initial panic, she slightly raised her chin and looked at him with eyes full of provocation. This matter was set in stone. No one could change it. Even if Jiang Xiao didn't want to, there was nothing he could do. What's more, Jiang Xiao was now a waste. Cheng Lingsu has won first place in Jiangnan's under 30 competition. You announce it. Cheng Lingsu waited for Jiang Xiao to announce the results. Jiang Xiao said, "She does not deserve to be the champion." Hua, the crowd was in an uproar. Cheng Lingsu and the people close to her, including Cheng Lingran, all changed their expressions. Wang Kai of Pantheon Creatures said angrily, "Cheng Lingsu crushed all her opponents and won in the end. Even her opponents in the finals did not have the courage to fight with her. She deserves to be the champion. What right do you have to say that she does not deserve to be the champion?" Cheng Lingsu also angrily stared at Jiang Xiao. Wang Jiming on the side reminded him softly, "I called you here to let you sit and go through the motions. You just need to announce the results. You don't need to worry about anything else." Jiang Xiao said, "Am I the main judge or are you the main judge?" "You." Wang Jiming choked and was speechless. No matter why he was called here, Jiang Xiao was the main judge. He had the final say. Jiang Xiao pointed at Cheng Lingsu and said, "You cheated." Cheng Lingsu's proud expression slowly froze on her pretty face. She did not take out the bead, but Jiang Xiao still knew. She did not think it was possible to hide this point. But she did not expect Jiang Xiao to publicly reveal this fact. He really did not care about their past relationship as husband and wife. He did not care about his childhood sweetheart at all. "Can you not bear to see me like this?" She felt a heart-wrenching pain, and her eyes unconsciously turned red. "Excuse me, do you have any evidence?" Jiang Xiao said. "The thing that you cheated with is hanging around your neck. And the evidence is this inner core. I gave it to Ran Ran to save her life. Every time it is used, it will be used less and less. If you paid attention just now, you would have noticed that when she used the so-called demigod martial arts technique, its power was getting weaker and weaker. Of course, the talisman array needed to be supported by energy. The source of energy for this talisman array was the inner core. Since it was a consumable, its power would naturally decrease continuously." Cheng Lingsu's face became paler and paler. You're lying," Jiang Xiao said. "Cheng Lingsu cheated, so she's disqualified. This time, the first place under the age of 30 is Qin Tianhao from the pre-Qin biological group. Tianhao, it's your first time. You're first." The beautiful girl who cheered for Qin Tianhao just now hugged him excitedly. Qin Tianhao was stunned. "I knew it. How could a beginner warlord use such a powerful demigod martial arts technique?" Wang Kai from Pantheon Creatures stood up and glared at Jiang Xiao angrily. Jiang Xiao turned a blind eye and said, "If the judges don't believe me, we can apply. The inner core is used to protect one's body. When faced with an external attack, it will burst out a powerful force. It doesn't matter who wears it." "Why, Jiang Xiao, why did you do this to me?" Cheng Lingsu's eyes were filled with tears. She glared at Jiang Xiao angrily with bloodshot eyes. "What did I do wrong to you?" Jiang Xiao stared at her indifferently and emotionlessly. "Jiang Xiao, you bastard. My daughter didn't like you and dumped you. How could you frame her like this? Are you still human?" Seeing that Jiang Xiao had ruined the glory and wealth that was in her hands, Sun Xiaohong no longer cared about the occasion. She started to scold him like a shrew. "Judges, please don't listen to him. He was just dumped by my daughter. Look at him, his cultivation is gone, his money is gone, and he has become a cripple. Now that he has been dumped by my daughter, he is mentally unbalanced. He is now a pervert. Do you think you can believe the words of a pervert? At this moment a voice suddenly sounded. This lady is right. A person who is disabled and has experienced great changes in his life is definitely mentally twisted. I think the first place this time should be Miss Chung Lingsu from Pantheon Creatures. Everyone looked over and saw a young man walking toward the crowd, surrounded by the crowd. At first glance he looked like Zhuge Tao, who was killed by Jiang Xiao in Huabei. Young Master Zhuge. Young Master Zhuge. Not to mention the audience, even Wang Kai from Pantheon Creatures, Wang Jiming, the Deputy Provincial Secretary of Jiangnan, and the representative of Preteen Creatures who were sitting on the rostrum hurriedly stood up to greet him. Zhuge Shi's son, the first young master of Jiangnan, had arrived. Chapter 365. Seeing this person, everyone present was filled with respect. In today's Jiangnan, this person's power could be said to be monstrous. The crowd parted to form a path. The closest person to him did not dare to be more than 5 meters away. His aura was so strong that even the provincial bosses could not compare. Wang Jiming was the most obsequious. Eldest young master, why are you here? This is such a small matter. How could I trouble you? Zhuge Ning waved his hand slightly, indicating for him to calm down. However, his eyes were fixed on Jiang Xiao. The former strongest person in China. I of course have to come and take a look. The moment he arrived, he rebuked the person in such an overbearing manner. This was not a visit, it was clearly a show of strength. Everyone present looked at Jiang Xiao with some sympathy. The power of the Zhuge family in Jiangnan was similar to that of Jiang Luoxia in the past. No, it was even stronger than that. Back then, Jiang Luoxia had Gu Deji as his equal. Now the people of the Jiangnan frontier were the people of the Zhuge family. The rulers of the future would never treat the rulers of the past well. Zhuge Ning clicked his tongue and said, "Tisdaithe, what a pity, what a pity. The once all-powerful Jiang Luoxian has fallen to such a state. What's the saying again? Fall to the 9 mysteries and cleanse the heavens and earth. Even if you're not careful, you're still outstanding. Look at you now. You're neither human nor ghost. You've even become Tiancan and Deke." The people around him were very cooperative and secretly shook their heads. They seemed to be very disdainful of Jiang Xiao. It was as if Jiang Xiao was just a person fishing for fame, and could not enter the Hall of Elegance. "Eldest young master, please." Since eldest young master is here, of course the result will be decided by eldest young master. Zhuge Ning laughed. "I have already said that the first place belongs to the Pantheon Biological Corporation." The Pantheon Biological Corporation had a close relationship with the Zhuge family, with eldest young master supporting them. No matter whether Chung Lingsu really cheated or not, the first place would undoubtedly belong to Chung Lingsu. Wang Jiming clapped and said, "Yes, yes, she deserves the title." The applause from the audience followed suit and resounded throughout the hall. Congratulations to Pantheon for taking first place. Congratulations. You deserve it. It was as if this Jiangnan's eldest son had said that the cheating incident had never happened. Chung Lingsu's first place was also justified. "Thank you, eldest young master. Thank you, eldest young master." Sun Xiaohong was moved to tears. "Su, congratulations." Ouyang Qian, Li Dan, and the others also came to Chung Lingsu's side to make their presence known. It would be best if they could attract the attention of the first young master of Jiangnan, even if it was just a glance. Chung Lingsu smiled again. "Thank you." In the end he still got it. This Jiangnan was no longer the all-powerful Jiangnan that he used to be. He had already said that he didn't have the final say. He was probably going to be the main judge of this exchange meeting. "Thank you everyone. I will work harder." But at this moment, Jiang Xiao's discordant voice sounded. "Who are you?" "Hua." The hall suddenly quieted down. Was he crazy? He actually dared to ask who the eldest son was? "Who am I? Listen carefully. I am the son of Zhuge Shi from the Zhuge family, Zhuge Ning." Jiang Xiao shook his head and said, "I've never heard of you. What status do you have? Do you have the right to speak here?" Whoa, this was going to be tough. Jiang Luoxia was courting death, wasn't he? What? Zhuge Ning was in disbelief. Jiang Xiu actually dared to put him on the spot. Jiang Xiu said, "Who do you think you are? When did you have the right to speak here? I am the main judge here. I have the final say here." How resolute, wasn't he? Although this wasn't the past, and there was a saying of hereditary inheritance, the son of the feudal lord wasn't the crown prince. He was just a commoner. To put it bluntly, he was just a second-generation heir. He didn't have the right to make a fuss here. But if he wanted to kill Jiang Xiu, it would be as easy as killing an ant. Everyone present was a bit stunned. Jiang Luoxia was really crazy. This time he had offended the eldest son badly. Did he really think that he was still the old Mr. Jiang? "You." Someone on the side smiled and said, "Little Ning, Mr. Jiang is right. He is the main judge of this exchange meeting. We have no right to interfere with the results. We can only be spectators." This person was in his 40s. His face was strangely pale. He probably had leukoplakia. In the Hua nation, the direct descendants of the feudal lords were not allowed to do business. Jiang Xiu's original assets all fell into the hands of this Zhuge. Of course, it wasn't just him, but the entire Zhuge family. Wang Xintong told him that his assets were slowly squeezed dry by this person. This included the necklace he sold to his mother, the villa in the capital, the streets in Yunhu. In the end, he only left it to his parents. The old house that used to be the Jiang family was reduced to its original state. This person was also the main bridge between the Zhuge family and the West Shu Sword Palace. He was a disciple of the West Shu Sword Palace. But his tone changed. If someone is stripped of his position as the main judge, then it's a different story. Zhuge Ning laughed. "Uncle Tsang, don't tell me you want to dismiss Mr. Jiang. He is Jiang Luoxia, the famous Jiang Luoxia. Even after becoming a useless person, he still dares to be so arrogant." Zhuge Tsang took out a letter of appointment and said, "This was given to me by Zhuge Fengjiang. If Jiang Luoxia shows any favoritism as a judge this time, he will be dismissed immediately." As soon as he said this, everyone present started to discuss. Since they invited someone to be a judge, they should trust him. If they didn't trust him, then he should be a normal judge. Why did they give him the position of the main judge? And even prepare a letter of dismissal? Wasn't this deliberately playing with him? They were sincerely humiliating Jiang Luoxia. Winner takes all. Since ancient times, everyone looked at Jiang Xiu sympathetically. However, they felt that he was even more miserable. His rebuttal just now was more like a desperate struggle. He wanted to hold on to his last shred of dignity and glory, but what welcomed him was an even more merciless humiliation. Zhuge Tsang looked at Jiang Xiu mockingly. "Mr. Jiang, do you still want to insist on your own opinion?" If he didn't insist on obeying them, he would be dismissed on the spot. In the end, they still had the final say. Anyway, he had already become a pawn of the Zhuge family, and was at their mercy. "Bring him up." A person with a gunny sack was thrown into the field. "Jiang Luoxia, do you still recognize him?" Jiang Xiu looked at the man whose head was exposed from the gunny sack. He was in his 50s. His face was pale, his eyes were dull, and there was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. He looked familiar, but he couldn't remember who he was. Mr. Jiang. He was like a walking corpse. Mu Jianpain. Yes, Mu Jianpain. He was the head of the Mu family, one of the 4 major families in North China. He pretended to be a useless person, and entered the Zhuge family as a slave for more than a year. Unfortunately, we saw through his disguise. When the little sword master and Zhuge Tao were killed by Jiang Xiu, Mu Jianpain was present. The West Shu Sword Palace and the Zhuge family naturally wouldn't let him go. The Mu family was destroyed and Mu Jianpain was crippled. In order to take revenge, he entered the Zhuge family as a slave, but in the end all his efforts were in vain. Zhuge Tsang said, "Mr. Jiang, what do you think?" Jiang Xiu said, "What does it have to do with me?" Zhuge Tsang's expression turned cold. "That year in North China, you killed the little sword master and Zhuge Tao. Do you think that you can forget about this matter now that you're crippled?" Jiang Xiu said, "What do you want?" Zhuge Tsang said, "Enter the Zhuge family and be a slave forever." Jiang Xiu laughed out loud. "I'm afraid you can't take it." Zhuge Tsang said, "My Zhuge family is blessed with great fortune. Even if you were at your peak, my Zhuge family would still be able to take a lowly slave like you, let alone a cripple like you. Song, Suddenly, a loud voice came from the sky, causing the clouds in the sky to tumble. Everyone looked at the sky in shock, but there was no trace of him. Mr. Jiang is an outstanding person. You can't humiliate him like this. The voice came again, as if it came from the end of the sky, ancient and distant. Zhuge Song's face was filled with fear. He hurriedly knelt down, and even reached out to pull Zhuge Ning. The latter also knelt down blankly. Zhuge Song said, "Disciple greets Duke Wu Xia." Wow, it exploded. It exploded. See, Wu Xia was here? Everyone's expression changed greatly. They looked up at the sky and searched. The sky was vast and there was no trace of him, but the voice came rolling. It was really a deity. Rise. Thank you, Duke Wu Xia. Jiang Xiu looked up. His gaze passed through the layers of clouds and saw a man standing on a flying sword. See Wu Xia. Zhuge Song said, Jiang Luoxia, either enter the Zhuge family as a slave or die. Chapter 366. The entire place was silent. The atmosphere was so heavy that everyone involuntarily held their breaths, waiting for Jiang Xiu's choice. But no matter what choice he made, it was so sad that it caused everyone to feel sad. Maybe this was the fate of all experts. Jiang Xiu looked at Cheng Lingran. She looked at him in a daze. Her clear eyes were full of sadness and blood vessels, but there were no tears. She could cry for Jiang Xiu's fate, but she would never cry under the enemy's coercion. Noticing that Jiang Xiu was looking at her, Cheng Lingran smiled. The smile that bloomed in sadness was like a beautiful flower that bloomed in the desert. It was so moving and gave people endless strength. What's wrong? Zhuge Song saw Jiang Xiu hesitate and said, Can't you make a choice? You were so cruel when you killed Zhuge Tao. Did you think this day would come? Did you think this day would come when you killed the little sword master? Jiang Luoxia, you're finished. This time, the Zhuge family had made sufficient preparations. If Jiang Xiu was really crippled, then they would naturally take him down effortlessly and humiliate him wantonly to vent the hatred in their hearts. If Jiang Xiu was pretending, then even if there was a sword immortal like Duke Wu Xia in the heavens who only existed in legends, they would definitely kill him without fail. He wanted Jiang Xiu to fall and never rise again. And the foundation of the Zhuge family in Jiangnan would be immortal. Beg me, Jiang Luoxia. If you're willing to kneel and beg me, maybe I'll let you go. Zhuge Song stood with his hands behind his back and looked down at Jiang Xiu. He looked like he was in control of the situation. Jiang Xiu looked at him indifferently without a trace of emotion. You can't kneel. That's right. You're Mr. Jiang, the all-powerful Jiang Luoxia. You're such a powerful person. Why would you kneel and beg for mercy from someone like me? If it were me, I would rather die than kneel. Zhuge Song said, Then I'll help you. Bring him here. Everyone looked in the direction of the entrance and saw a middle-aged couple being escorted in by a group of people. Many people present were confused when they saw the couple. Who are these two people? Seeing this couple, Cheng Lingran's family was shocked. They would never have thought that the powerful Sword Palace and the powerful Zhuge clan would take Jiang Xiu's parents as hostages. The surrounding people quickly realized who this couple was. Their identities were obvious. They were Jiang Luoxia's parents. Ah, Jiang Luoxia, you really have guts. Your parents are in our hands, yet you're still so calm. No wonder you could rule Jiangnan back then. I'm a little impressed. Zhuge Song realized that he had miscalculated. When he brought Jiang Luoxia's parents out, he didn't manage to intimidate Jiang Xiu and make him kneel. However, this didn't affect anything. Minor repairs. We're fine. Jiang Yi roared with all his strength. Jiang Yi and Lin Yueling were prepared for today's situation. Jiang Xiu was a man of steel, not to mention that he had climbed to the point where even the big boss had come to visit him. It could be said that he had limitless glory. Of course, he was rich and powerful, but at the same time, he must have made many enemies. Jiang Luoxia, are you still going to pretend? You're the one who did the Wang family thing, right? You thought that no one would know. You're so stupid. It's fine if you just hide in Jiangcheng. Once the Wang family is in trouble and Wang Xintong takes over the Wang family, your shadow can't be wiped away. A big question mark appeared in everyone's mind. Jiang Luoxia, your cultivation is still there. You're not a cripple. What? As soon as these words came out, the crowd was in an uproar. Jiang Luoxia is not a cripple. He's pretending? Jiang Xiu's parents, Cheng Hanlin's family, and everyone present stared at Jiang Xiu with wide eyes, waiting for his answer. Especially the two pearls of the Cheng family. Their beautiful eyes were full of shock as they looked at him. In the sky, Si Wuxia, who had been silent for a long time, said, "Little friend Jiang, are you still going to pretend? It's meaningless now." Jiang Xiu lowered his head so that no one could see his face clearly. However, his shoulders were trembling slightly. He laughed softly, but slowly his laughter became louder and louder. Ha ha boom. Along with the laughter, a violent force surged out. This was an unimaginably powerful force. It was like a tornado, earth-shattering. His hair grew at a speed visible to the naked eye, like a flame fluttering on top of his head. His marble-like face became more three-dimensional, and there was no part of it that didn't reveal a sense of perfection. His eyes were as deep as the abyss. His posture was tall and straight, and his clothes fluttered in the wind. His entire person was like a god in ancient Greek mythology, or a demon that walked out of hell. Explode, explode, completely explode. The entire stadium was in chaos. Everyone who saw this scene was dumbfounded. This was Jiang Luoxia's true face? He was really pretending. Cheng Lingsu felt as if her brain was about to explode. Looking at Jiang Xiu, who was as handsome as a god, she felt extremely conflicted. What crippled cultivation? What crippled? What crippled? It was all an act. Why? Why did you have to lie to me? This. Cheng Hanlin, Sun Xiaohong, and the rest were dumbfounded. They were speechless. This was also the first time Ouyang Qian and the rest saw Jiang Xiu's true face. Oh my god, so this is what he looks like. He's too handsome. The entire stadium was in an uproar. Everyone was completely stirred up by this scene. Minor repairs. Cheng Lingran covered her mouth. She couldn't stop the tears in her eyes from falling. Do you think that I'm pretending to be crippled, because I'm afraid of the power of the West Shu Sword Palace and the power of the Zhuge family? A mocking smile appeared on Jiang Xiu's face. You think too highly of yourselves. You're not worthy. Being forced to this point, Jiang Xiu couldn't continue pretending. Zhuge Tsong said, "Isn't that so?" Jiang Xiu said, "I'm just an ant. There's no need for me to do this. As for you," he looked at the sky. "You're just a slightly bigger ant." Si Wuxia said, "Little friend Jiang, you're too arrogant. Do you dare to fight? You're courting death." With a boom, Jiang Xiu was sent flying into the air. With a boom, Zhuge Tsong's body actually exploded, turning into a bloody mist. Jiang Xiu had actually shot up tens of meters into the air, which was more than 20 stories high. This scene made everyone's hands and feet tremble, and they were dumbfounded. Zhuge Tsong was the #1 expert of the Zhuge clan, a demigod existence. Yet he was killed just like that. In front of the powerful Jiang Luoxia, Zhuge Tsong was truly like an ant. Jiang Luoxia didn't even slow down his speed at all. He's actually this strong? Lu Chunchun was completely bewitched. It was too awe-inspiring. However, the shock wasn't over. Jiang Xiu's body flew up into the sky. Oh my god, he flew up into the sky. Compared to the appearance of the spiritual cultivation, the fight at the Shunxian exchange meet just now was simply like a child playing house. Or rather, Jiang Xiu's aura was too strong. The whole sky was trembling in front of him. Si Wuxia, Jiang Luoxia. The sword immortal of Shishu suddenly rushed out from the clouds. He flew on his sword as fast as lightning, leaving behind a series of sword shadows. Let me see your strength. Dragon, come. With a loud shout, the white clouds in the distant sky surged, forming a fiery cloud. Accompanying this angry shout was a roar, 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 roar. A fire dragon condensed from red flames rushed out furiously. Jiang Xiu's figure flashed and landed on the dragon's back. Roar. Jiang Luoxia rode the wind and the dragon. Si Wuxia, I'll make you unable to bear the consequences of your actions today. Oh my god, it's a dragon. Am I seeing things? Jiang Luoxia is riding on a dragon's back. Dragons had been a legendary existence in China since ancient times. They were sacred and powerful. How could they be reduced to Jiang Xiu's mount? Not bad, not bad. At such a young age, you can condense clouds and form them. It seems that you're not far from the middle god realm. It's a pity that in front of the great Tao of Jindan, you're still thousands of miles away. Boy, you haven't reached the Tao yet? Is that so? Jiang Luoxia rushed at high speed. He raised his hands high and suddenly slashed down. The power of the whole world suddenly gathered. It was as if the sky was collapsing and the earth was sinking. It was more than tens of thousands of pounds heavy. A long sword that spanned the whole sky burst out with a strong light and fell down. At this moment, nothing else could be seen between heaven and earth. There was only a white line that separated heaven and earth. Creation and divine beauty, yin and yang cutting dawn. Chapter 367. Looking at the blade descending from the sky, Si Wuxia's eyes flashed with a bright light. She stepped on the astral wind and retreated to the extreme in a flash. The flying sword under her feet was already standing in front of her. She continuously chanted incantations and pointed her finger at the blade that was descending. So, the flying sword violently shot out, bringing along a flickering light and passing shadow. The flying sword flew at a speed visible to the naked eye. 50 meters, 100 meters, Si Wuxia's face was calm, but his heart had long been set off by stormy waves. Putting aside the power of this blade, he had never seen such a blade before. At this moment, he was also giving it his all. Rushing heaven splitting boundless. Si Wuxia's robe fluttered in the wind and his immortal aura was awe-inspiring. He had already passed through two major obstacles in the path of immortality, and stepped into the mysterious great Tao of gold core. Thus, he had escaped the shackles of an earth immortal, and was able to travel the North Sea in the morning, and Kangwu in the evening. Moving mountains and overturning rivers and mountains was just a piece of cake. Break. The sky that was formed by the blade light made a sizzling sound. The sword light flashed, and it actually made a solid cutting sound. Sparks flew in all directions and lightning flashed. Boom. The saber light and sword light collided. The saber light was a notch stronger. It actually managed to forcefully knock away the huge sword. The body of the sword spun in circles as it was thrown into the sky. Fine cracks appeared on the surface of the sword. In an instant, the sword shrunk to its normal size and flew toward Si Wuxia. Ha! Si Wuxia's face suddenly turned pale. His body that was floating in the sky took half a step back. The sword immortal and the sword body were one. If the sword body was damaged, his body would be damaged. How could this be? At this moment, he was shocked to the extreme. How could a lesser god beat him in a head-on fight? He was an existence that surpassed the earth immortals, and stepped onto the great way of the gold core. According to the division of realms, he was equivalent to a middle god, one realm higher than Jiang Xiu. There's no reason. He knew whether there were middle gods in this world because he knew the only middle god. Little did he know, the middle god he knew had been killed by Jiang Xiu. No, to be more precise, the middle god was shattered by Jiang Xiu and became a vegetable. The reason why he could break free from the restrictions of heaven and earth, and step onto the great way of the gold core, was also because of the great changes in this world. I underestimated you. Jiang Xiu rode on his dragon, with the wind and clouds at his side. Above his head lightning flashed and thunderclouds flashed, making him look like a god or a devil. He sneered. How could he underestimate Si Wuxia? Jiang Xiu's previous attack was only a saber beam, while Si Wuxia's was a natal flying sword. Even so, they were defeated by Jiang Xiu. The gap between the two was obvious. However, you still don't know who you are facing. As Si Wuxia spoke, a faintly discernible immortal sound was emitted from his body. The surrounding clouds and mist were stirred up by him, and the vibrations spread out. Even the sky and earth seemed to be shaking, as if there was the sound of rushing water. At the same time, more than a dozen miles away, the Qiantang River's water soared into the sky with a loud boom, rushing towards Si Wuxia's location. It was the time for people to get off work. There was a lot of traffic and pedestrians on the road. However, it was still bright when it suddenly darkened. Looking up, they saw a huge shadow in the sky. The entire city was shrouded in it. My God, what is that? It looks like water. After the world changed, people's nerves became more relaxed. No matter how strange things happened, they could face them with relative calmness. In the Jiangnam provincial government's Fengjiang office, from Zhugeshi's seat, he could clearly see the water flowing across the sky. The place where he stood was completely dark. This is, without waiting for him to answer. The secretary outside hurriedly walked in and said, Provincial Secretary, as you expected, Jiang Luoxia is pretending. He has been forced to reveal his true form. Duke Wuxie has made his move. Zhugeshi smiled faintly. Jiang Luoxia's martial cultivation is not weak. However, this person's methods are vicious, arrogant and perverse. He is a complete brute. His little schemes are like a 3-year-old child who just learned how to walk in front of me. There was an old man beside Zhugeshi. He was the current sword master of the West Shu Sword Palace. The young sword master was his grandson. He was also the one who invited Si Wuxie to come out. Duke Wuxie has made his move. He shook his head and sighed. It's a pity for Jiang Luoxia. He was originally an ambitious and ruthless character. I still wanted to exchange blows with him and see if his saber light is stronger, or if my sword is better. Looking at his disappointed expression, it seemed that he regretted missing such an opportunity. Zhugeshi laughed and said, Using Duke Wuxie to deal with Jiang Luoxia is indeed like using a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. There's no other way to find a cow in this world. If we must kill, we can only find a bigger chicken. The secretary beside him heard the serious Feng Jiang crack a joke for the first time. He also laughed along. However, he laughed very shyly to prevent Feng Jiang from thinking that he was not calm enough. The sword master of the West Shu Sword Palace said, If I'm not wrong, this should be the water of the Qian River. The elder master is able to overturn rivers and seas so easily. What kind of existence is the Jindan Dao? When the people in the arena saw the water coming from the sky and rushing towards Jiang Xiu, they also exclaimed, Oh my God! The water was like the water of the Milky Way that filled the entire sky. It pumped continuously towards Jiang Xiu. The water's potential was very strong. If it was a flood, it could destroy an entire house. Moreover, the water of the Qian River came from the sky. The force of the rush was enough to destroy an entire mountain. Accompanied by the sound of splashing water, there was also the sound of chanting. Ha ha ha! Jiang Xiu faced such heavenly power. The people below were so shocked that their thoughts stopped. However, he laughed loudly. He did not even care about the dangerous situation in front of him. A sword immortal using the tricks of an itinerant immortal. How sad. Jiang Xiu's smile suddenly stopped. His expression became serious. The water of the river was a waterfall that was thousands of meters long. The speed of its rush was even faster than the speed of sound. Jiang Luoxia, don't be so arrogant. Today is the day you die. Si Wuxie had already seen the power of Jiang Xiu's sword Dao. It was slightly better than his sword Dao. However, in the face of such an overturning river and sea, it was completely powerless. He still had the ability to make this kind of judgment. Can you cut open the water of the Qian River? Die. Jiang Xiu's eyes were cold. He raised his head slightly and looked at the waterfall that was already covering the sky and earth. He softly said, Burn. Whoosh. He blew a breath towards the waterfall that was pressing down on him. However, with a gentle blow, the sound of the wind was ear-piercing. A strong gust of wind surged out of his mouth. Suddenly, it turned into a hurricane that was thousands of feet long. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a gale that was thousands of feet long. Dragon fire. The wind gave birth to the fire, and the wind and fire engulfed the water of the Qian River. It was as if the water was swallowed by the wind and fire. It rushed over continuously, and was incinerated. What's wrong? Si Wuxie's expression finally changed. He could no longer stay calm. He was stunned by the strange scene in front of him. The people below were all dumbfounded. The wind and fire that traversed the entire sky burned the water of the Qian River. Such an astronomical phenomenon was inexplicably shocking. It was as if they were listening to a fairy tale. The dragon fire did not belong to this world. It could instantly incinerate all matter in this world. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. I don't believe it. Si Wuxie roared. The sword in his hand flashed. He suddenly slashed out. Then his body turned illusory and flashed nonstop. The horizon was filled with sword light. The flashing sword light had the power to destroy heaven and earth. It could split a mountain in half. Saber come. Jiang Xiu's divine origin energy flashed. The saber pellet flew out and transformed into a saber. The resplendent saber light flashed in the air. His eyes were pitch black. His gaze carried a cold light. The terrifying saber intent was like a violent gale that surged towards the distance. His divine sense was so condensed that it was like a substance. No matter how fierce his sword intent and sword light flashed, before the saber arrived, the sword intent and sword light were completely destroyed. Bang bang bang. In the sky, the sword light continued to explode. The 3-foot saber light broke through the air, carrying the sharpness and decisiveness that could cut through metal. Facing this saber, Si Wuxie's face was filled with despair. He could only sigh. Bang. The long sword in Si Wuxie's hand flew out, spinning in circles in the sky. This sword had once shocked the world. During the Second World War, how many enemies were frightened by its name? How many overseas experts had submitted to this sword? But now it had flown out of his hand. Chapter 368. Si Wuxie's sword was his natal flying sword. The spiritual power in his body was enormous. After all, his realm was there. Just from this point alone, he was even stronger than the current Jiang Xiu. However, the reason why his sword was shot down by Jiang Xiu was because his sword cultivation was not enough. The fatal weakness of a swordsman had always been that the sword's lethality was strong enough and the sword's will was sharp enough, but the spiritual power in the body was not strong enough. Generally, people who were obsessed with sword cultivation would be obsessed with sword cultivation and neglect other things. In the past, Jiang Xiu also had such a problem. However, this Si Wuxie was the opposite. The spiritual power in his body was strong enough, but his sword cultivation was not enough, so he could not really exert its power. Facing Jiang Xiu, he could only lose. If before the nuclear explosion, Jiang Xiu's body was not destroyed and the body of saber fire was not formed, perhaps Si Wuxie would have had a 70% to 80% chance of winning. However, now Jiang Xiu could defeat him with one blow. Rip. A dazzling flash cut through the night sky. Countless people in Hangzhou looked up at the sky. There was water, fire, thunder, and lightning in the sky. All kinds of strange astronomical phenomena intertwined. They were only ordinary people, and they were far away, so they could only see some of it vaguely. What kind of weather is this? What will the world become? It's really worrying. At this time in the sky, Si Wuxie flashed out and grabbed his natal flying sword that had been knocked away. He followed the sword and turned into a stream of sword light, rushing toward Jiang Xiu with a flash of sword light. At the same time, he slashed out 131 times in an instant. Streaks of sharp sword light shrouded Jiang Xiu. In the flash of lightning, he had already arrived in front of Jiang Xiu. Jiang Xiu's eyes swept over, and his saber light flashed. He only slashed once. Boom. The sound of thunder exploded in the void. It was as if a millstone was spinning in the sky. The saber radiance struck out with a force of over 10,000 caddies. The void trembled, and the air was cut apart inch by inch like threads. Si Wudao had already closed in on Jiang Xiu. The long sword in his hand danced, and the sword light flashed out like a stream of luck. Finally, the sword light condensed into a sword in a mysterious pattern, and flew towards Jiang Xiu. Clang! It was as if a huge bell had exploded, and the sound of a mountain cannon was not even 1,000th of it. A huge hole was about to explode in the sky. Their attacks were so powerful that it was not just a competition of speed and strength. It was also a competition of Dao arts, forcefully clashing with the heavenly Dao. Did you use your full strength? Si Wuxie's face was pale, and large beads of sweat rolled down her face. What consciousness do you have? Jiang Xiu smiled coldly. What I mean is, I haven't used any strength yet. At the same time, The divine Tao pattern on his arm became blazing hot, and at the same time, an intense light burst forth. As Jiang Xiu's eyes swept over, cold light flashed, and he softly spat out a word. Hong! The first sound of heaven and earth. Boom! The whole sky and earth trembled, and the rumbling sound did not stop. The people standing on the ground felt the earth shake, and their bodies swayed. At the end of the sky, a scorching sun slowly rose into the sky, and the fierce sunlight shone on the earth. Heavens, heavens! It was the afternoon, the spring afternoon, and the sun went down late. At this moment, the sun was really setting in the west, but another sun rose in the east. Jiang Luoxia's incantation caused this world to have two suns. Everyone was stunned, and they were speechless. What kind of immortal method was this? If Si Wuxia's ability to overturn rivers and seas was enough to shock them, then Jiang Xiu's ability to cause a second sun to rise in the sky was a complete shock to their worldview. Two suns. Jiang Xiu let out an unprecedented roar, and a cold light flashed in his eyes that were as deep as the abyss. It was as if the whole world had merged into his body. Defeat. Ding! Si Wuxia could no longer hold the sword in his hand, and the sword once again flew out of his hand, spinning in circles. Different from the previous time, there was only a slight sword mark on the sword body, but now, with this sword mark as the center, the sword cracked in all directions irregularly. In addition, there were many sword marks and cracks that appeared out of nowhere, and in the next moment, the whole sword body was covered in cracks. Pung! The long sword cracked, and like a glass cup falling to the ground, it shattered into pieces. My sword! When he rushed out of the lightning, his body was still an arm's length away from the sword body, but he did not manage to grab it. Even if he did, it would be broken into pieces. This sword was his life-bound flying sword, a part of his body. The sword shattered, just like the person shattered. At this moment, Si Wuxia's eyes had turned pale white. Dazzling blood flowed out from his eyes. His face was stiff, and his expression was one of pain. His body stopped there, as if he was a stone that had existed since ancient times. The sun that rose from the east slowly sank, and it returned to how it came. The world returned to the afternoon darkness. Si Wuxia's body fell from the sky, her clothes fluttering in the wind. However, her body was lying flat on the ground. A man's body structure had its center of gravity on the upper body. If the height was too high, the head would slowly fall downwards. In the end, it was more like the head was falling downwards. Fell down? It's Si Wuxia. With a loud bang, his body fell to the ground. It was not as badly mutilated as expected. After all, it was an immortal body, and it was not so fragile. However, blood flowed out of his 7 orifices, and his eyes were bulging. He was dead. Roar! A dragon's roar resounded in the sky. Jiang Xiu rode on the dragon, and the dragon's head was straight down, and the dragon's whiskers were flying. Jiang Xiu's body completely defied gravity, and stood on the dragon's head. When he was about to reach the ground, the dragon's head lifted up, and his body straightened up. The dragon's body under his feet gradually blurred, and sank into the ground. He landed on the ground steadily, and walked to the side of Si Wuxia's body. Silence, a deathly silence. Countless pairs of eyes stared at the man in front of them in shock. He had killed Si Wuxia. Si Wuxia, who was high up in the sky and illuminated the entire country like a god, was a top expert who was even stronger than Si Wuxia. He stood with his hands behind his back, like a god descending. His figure and aura were all in accordance with the laws of heaven and earth. I said, "You're courting death." Gulp. Someone swallowed a mouthful of saliva with difficulty, and was stunned by this earth-shattering battle. It was simply unimaginable that a battle between two peerless experts would be such an earth-shattering scene. They were even more shocked by Jiang Luoxia's domineering aura. Young Master Zhuge? At this moment, Zhuge Ning's eyes were wide open, and his breathing seemed to be convulsing. He did not know how to breathe anymore, and panic occupied all his thoughts. Who do you think will be the champion of this year's biology exchange conference? Do you have the final say, or do I have the final say? Zhuge Ning's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. You have the final say. What a joke, Zhuge Tsang was killed, and now even Duke Wuxia was killed by him. In front of him, he was like an ant. How could he dare to say no? Jiang Xiu said. That's not what you said just now. Jiang Xiu said. I hate petty people. When I see this kind of person, I usually don't even blink and will roll his neck. Burp. Zhuge Ning was so scared that he could not breathe, and his whole face turned green. Jiang Luoxia, don't be arrogant. Don't forget that your parents are still in my hands. Jiang Xiu walked over step by step, and his eyes were terrifyingly cold. His aura was even more frightening. Naive, you are too naive. I, Jiang Luoxia, do not need people. You are delusional to think that you can trap me with a mere bloodline. Do you think that I am not even as good as Emperor Gaozu of Han? When Emperor Gaozu of Han's father was captured, he was killed by his opponent. If he was cooked into soup and meat, he would be called to eat it together. Zhuge Ning felt that something on his right was suddenly broken by a strong sense of fear. That was his gallbladder. Jiang Xiu's right hand pressed on his head, and with a slight twist, his whole neck was strangely twisted, and black blood flowed out of his mouth. His eyes were wide open, but he had already lost his spirit, and his body fell forward. He was dead for sure. Come out! Jiang Xiu shouted angrily, and hundreds of people appeared on the surrounding roofs of the stadium. They were wearing scary green masks with fangs, and draped in cloaks, like demons from hell. Greetings, Mr. Jiang. Jiang Xiu's eyes burst out a terrible light. Seal all the sea, land, and air exits in Jiangnan. I don't want anyone to leave Jiangnan. I want the people of the Zhuge family to die without a burial place. Chapter 369. The people present stared at Jiang Xiu, and the shock in their hearts could not be calmed down for a long time. They almost wanted to kneel down and kowtow to him. As for those who knew Jiang Xiu, their feelings were extremely complicated. It was too unexpected. Jiang Yi and Lin Yueling burst into tears. They all thought that Jiang Xiu would be ruined for the rest of his life. They did not expect, really did not expect, that he would suddenly break out and destroy the enemy in such a strong manner, and return to Jiangnan. The couple was stunned by their son. Jiang Xiu's fierce and ambitious appearance even shocked them as his parents. They could not believe that their son turned out to be such a person. To be honest, looking at him, they were excited and proud, but also felt a little strange. Especially Lin Yueling. She gave birth to her son. She thought that she knew Jiang Xiu very well. However, it just happened and she did not know at all. The child had grown up. The Cheng family looked bitter. Sun Xiaohong looked at Jiang Xiu with her eyes out of focus. She wanted to reach out and slap herself a few times, but it was useless to regret it now. She had already offended Jiang Xiu and Lin Yueling. Last time, she offended Jiang Xiu and the Lin Yueling family, and the two families could reconcile because she still had feelings for Jiang Xiu and Lin Yueling. Now there was nothing left. Cheng Hanlin lowered his head. It was too late to say anything. Cheng Lingsu stared blankly at Jiang Xiu in front of her, and her feelings were extremely complicated. It was as if a bottle of mixed feelings had been knocked over. There was annoyance, regret, and most of all, anger. You lied to me, you lied to me. Thinking of the scenes when Jiang Xiu came back, especially that night when he suddenly rushed into her room and used force on her, it was not strange if he was really ruined, but the problem was that he was pretending. Then she thought of Lin Yueling, who lost control of her emotions in the police station, and looked at her with shame and anger, and said resolutely that she wanted to divorce. Everything was a conspiracy, a conspiracy. He had gotten his way. He had gotten rid of her and broken free from the shackles of a 20-year marriage contract. Cheng Lingsu, on the other hand, had been kicked out of the game like a clown. She had lost the glory and wealth that had been in her hands, and now she had to bear the infamy of being heartless and greedy. Thinking about this, she cried out in despair and lay paralyzed on the ground. Why did you do this to me? Jiang Xiu, why did you do this to me? What did I do? It's too terrible, too powerful. Chun, we just offended him with our words, will it? The people in the police system were a little pale at the moment. I don't know. Lu Chun was also stunned. Jiang Xiu turned out to be Jiang Luoxi, which was already exciting enough. Moreover, it turned out that he had destroyed all the foreign decorations and made a big counterattack against the natural order. It was such a thrilling return of the king. She remembered that she had arrested him to the police station and beat him up. Thinking about it, it was like a dream. No matter how powerful he is, he can't kill innocent people. Didn't you hear what he said just now? Block the whole Jiangnan sea, land and air, and don't let anyone escape from Jiangnan. He wants the Zhuge family to die without a burial place. He's bragging. Now it's a lawful society. At this moment, in the #1 courtyard of the Jiangnan frontier, Zhuge Shi and the sword master were talking happily. Zhuge Shi looked at the time and said, "It's been a few minutes. Why hasn't the other side reported the situation yet?" The sword master said, "It doesn't matter. The ancestor must want to play with him more. After all, the ancestor hasn't exercised his muscles and bones for a long time." Zhuge Shi couldn't help but laugh. The sword master can often listen to the old immortal's teachings. "I'm a vulgar mortal. I'm really envious. The sword master said. "It's true. However, I've just started. The mortal world is fleeting. Only immortal cultivation is the way. After experiencing the sea, 500 years to become an earth immortal. The ancestor has already surpassed the earth immortal realm. After 1,000 years, he is still here, but we have already become a piece of yellow soil." After 1,000 years, Duke Wuxie is still here? Zhuge Shi was shocked. "Yes," the sword master said. "The ancestor still has 1,000 years of life. Unless he is killed, he can at least live for another 1,000 years. But in this world, there is no existence that can kill him." Oh no. Duke Wuxie is dead. Well, the sword master was just bragging and he was slapped in the face. "What did you say?" The secretary no longer cared about being calm in front of Zhuge Fengjiang. How could he be calm now? Jiangnan was about to be turned upside down. He said in horror. Duke Wuxie was killed by Jiang Luoxia. Zhuge Tsang and Zhuge Ning were also killed. Jiang Luoxia even ordered a blockade of Jiangnan sea, land and air. He wants to exterminate your Zhuge clan, not leaving a single one alive. Ah! Zhuge Shi fell from the clouds into hell. His entire body seemed to have been sucked dry. His face turned pale, and he almost couldn't stand and fell to the ground. How could this be? How could this be? Wasn't Duke Wuxie an invincible earth immortal who had lived for 500 years? How could he be killed by a mere Jiang Luoxia? The sword master was shocked. If Duke Wuxie couldn't win against Jiang Luoxia, then there was no one in the sword palace who could fight against him. What should I do? What should I do now? Zhuge Shi tried his best to calm himself down. This is a lawful society. I, Zhuge Shi, am still Jiangnan's Fengjiang. This was given to me by the country. There are also hundreds of disciples in my Zhuge clan. Could it be that he really dares to make a move? Is he not afraid of being punished? The secretary said, "Secretary, there is something I don't know if I should say." "Quickly say it." Zhuge Shi was so anxious that he stomped his feet. The fire was burning his eyebrows and he was still dilly-dallying. The secretary said, "I heard that about 3 years ago, Prince Ao of the Jiang family came to Jiangnan. Countless rich people in Jiangnan joined him. Prince Ao was killed on the spot by Jiang Luoxia. At that time, all the rich people in Jiangnan who joined Prince Ao were massacred overnight. The number of people killed was several times that of the Zhuge clan's disciples." Hiss! Zhuge Shi sucked in a breath of cold air. His face was completely pale. "Quickly, inform the disciples of the Zhuge clan to escape Jiangnan. Leave and arrange a plane. I want to go to the capital. I want to go to Diaoyutai. I want to sue Jiang Luoxia. No, immediately use the emergency escape route to Shanghai. From there, we can go to the capital." After saying that, he rushed to the parking apron of the government compound. "Secretary, it's not good. A large number of troops have surrounded Jiangnan. The airport, train stations, highways, national roads, and even the coastal docks are all controlled. It looks like Gudikang. Secretary. The middle-aged man who came in to report was very puzzled when he saw the usually calm Zhuge Shi running out in fear. The more he ran, the more frightened he was. Quickly. After a while, the sound of a helicopter could be heard. Zhuge Shi's helicopter took off from the emergency escape route. Night fell. Hangzhou was still the same Hangzhou. The cars continued to move, and there were still customers coming in and out of the restaurants. However, the important traffic exits were all blocked. It was very noisy. The lives of the people on the list in the hands of the heavenly creatures were harvested mercilessly. Screams of terror could be heard from time to time. Blood spurted out, and corpses fell into pools of blood. Some died on the cars, some died at the train station, and some died at the airport. They couldn't escape. All the escape routes in Jiangnan were blocked. A large number of soldiers were there. No one could escape. Those who said they were powerful couldn't escape. They were directly pressed to the ground. Once their identities were confirmed, they would be executed on the spot. This was a terrifying hunting ground. The killing made the Jiangnan rich and powerful people tremble in fear. Jiang Luoxiao is back. Jiang Luoxiao is back. The entire Jiangnan's air was filled with the terrifying smell of blood. The scene from 3 years ago happened again. This time, the killing was even more ruthless. Not a single person from the Zhuge family who snatched the assets from Jiang Luoxia was left alive. Those who had close ties with the Zhuge family and participated in it were all killed. What was even more frightening was that the families of the officials who were affiliated with the Zhuge family were also killed. Ruthless. These 4 words had never left a deeper impression than at this moment. The news from Jiangnan soon reached the Dao Yutai of the imperial capital. The Dao Yutai was furious. They immediately called for an emergency meeting. There had never been such a huge turmoil in China. The big boss and the others rushed over quickly. Ever since the world changed and the mutated beasts started to encroach on the land, the danger factor of the air route had multiplied. The safety factor of foreign countries had also multiplied. The number of overseas visits had decreased. However, the trade between countries and the economy had developed rapidly. Lawless. A central government was extremely angry. Chapter 370. The 7 leaders of Dao Yutai were gathered together, and there were more than a dozen core members who came later. What's wrong with Gu Dikang? How dare he mobilize the army to lock down Jiangnan? How audacious! A middle-aged man said with a serious expression. The news from Jiangnan is that Mr. Jiang is furious. Dao Yutai was also very surprised to hear that Jiang Luoxia had returned alive. The core member surnamed Yu was furious. Why didn't he tell Dao Yutai when he came back? Everything can be discussed. Why did he have to use such extreme methods? The consequences are so bad. Does he think that the world is not chaotic enough? When he said this, he wasn't very confident. After Jiang Xiu's death, the assets naturally belonged to Jiang Xiu's family. After all, it was natural for the family to enjoy glory and wealth. Moreover, the assets originally belonged to Jiang Xiu. Even if he couldn't inherit all of it, he could at least inherit a portion of it. It was enough to ensure that he didn't have to worry about food and clothing. However, when the Zhuge family harmed the Jiang family, Dao Yutai also turned a blind eye. It was possible that Jiang Xiu had a problem with Dao Yutai. Another thing was that Dao Yutai didn't fulfill their promise to Jiang Xiu. Gu Deji went down and even allowed Jiang Xiu's enemy, the Zhuge family, to stay. This was really not very kind. The ugly side of hiding the bough after the birds were gone was exposed. At that time, the big boss insisted, but of course it was useless to support a dead person. Dao Yutai wasn't a one-sided affair. Especially after Si Wuxia spoke out in support of the Zhuge family moving into Jiangnan, more people supported the Zhuge family. In the end, the Zhuge family moved into Jiangnan, and the original Gu family was abandoned. Gu Deji didn't get promoted either. Jiang Xiu's group lost its cohesion and completely collapsed. But who would have thought that Jiang Xiu would come back alive and make such a big scene? So what if Mr. Jiang is angry? Is he not afraid of angering Duke Wuxia and coming out to deal with him? The central official was also very angry. The big boss said, "Your news is too slow. The source of the incident is that Si Wuxia has already been killed by Mr. Jiang." Hua, a single sentence stirred up 1,000 ripples. What? Everyone present was one of the most powerful figures in China. They were no longer surprised by honor or disgrace, but when they heard this news, they were still shocked. Si Wuxia was killed. It was too hard to imagine. Si Wuxia, the deity who had illuminated China since World War II, was actually killed. Wasn't that old immortal? He would die too? Jiang Luoxia, how dare he? In their view, Si Wuxia was a deity who suppressed China. Killing him went against the righteousness and harmed the country's interests. It was really treacherous. He has no sense of the big picture. He has no sense of the big picture. China has been able to develop smoothly for half a century. Duke Wuxia's influence over the people around him is self-evident. How could he? They were just short of saying that Jiang Xiu had betrayed the country. But they did not know that when the Zhuge family persecuted Jiang Xiu's parents, Dao Yutai did not say anything. Wasn't it because they no longer had any value? Treating the family of a meritorious official like this, did they ever think about the so-called righteousness? What should we do now? This was the key to the problem. This was a troublesome matter. The matter was too big, and it would be inexcusable if they did not deal with it. However, if they did deal with it, with Jiang Luo's strength, who knew what kind of trouble it would cause? It might even develop to the point of no return. What's there to discuss? We have to deal with it seriously. The central official was very determined. That's right. Someone on the side agreed. Several central officials had the same attitude. Mobilizing the army to seal off the entrance and exit of Jiangnan was restricting the freedom of the people of Jiangnan. How big of a loss would that be? The big boss said. Have you all considered the consequences of dealing with Jiang Luoxia? It seems that everyone has forgotten what kind of person he is. He's the most powerful person in China that even overseas countries are afraid of. And just now he even killed Si Wuxia. The central official said. So what? Don't tell me he doesn't want to be controlled? If he doesn't want to, then we'll do a census of China. With China's influence, he'll become a wanted criminal all over the world. Can he bear the consequences of such a thing? The big boss asked. What if he really dares to? He's in existence that even nuclear weapons can't kill. What's more frightening is that he has armed forces in his hands. These words woke everyone up from their daze. Everyone's expression changed. Jiang Luoxia had armed forces in his hands, the desert had won, and Gu Dikang was now his lackey. What if he was wild and unruly? The consequences of that would be unimaginable. Would there be another Huadong province? Huadong province was occupied by the beast Baizhuang, and the national team was under a lot of pressure. They were supposed to use nuclear weapons, but there were just too many civilians in Huadong province. Anyone who dared to do so would be a sinner in history. This was also where Baizhuang's brilliance lay. His rule over Huadong province wasn't to chase away all humans just because the beast came. Instead, it was to find a way for everyone to coexist. After a year and a half, they had gotten used to each other very well. It was said that the god's manifestation of Huadong province was terrifyingly powerful. The central official said, I still believe that Jiang Luoxia should be punished severely. We can't bow our heads to evil. The more we bow our heads, the more our rights will be challenged. Many people were wondering why he didn't say this when Si Wuxia wanted the Zhuge family to invade Jiangnan, forcing the national team to submit. Wasn't it because of personal interests? Jiang Luoxia had harmed his interests. Now that he was speaking so righteously, who didn't know that he was close to the Zhuge family? At this time, the upper class of Jiangnan was in a precarious situation. Cheng Lingran looked at Jiang Xiu, who was as handsome as a god. He was full of fantasy aesthetics like a portrait. Then she looked at his feet. Where was he lame? He was so majestic just now. That momentum made Cheng Lingran really see how a big shot was. At the moment when he gave the order, the whole Jiangnan was trembling under him. Where was he lame? Where was he lame? Where was he miserable? Where did he need to be comforted and encouraged? He was a liar from head to toe. If Jiang Xiu had disguised all of this in order to deal with a strong enemy, including her, she would not have any dissatisfaction. He had to put on a show to the end. He could only hide it from the enemy if he could hide it from himself. But the problem at hand was that Jiang Xiu had used this opportunity to play the victim. Not only had he won her sympathy, but he had also taken away her chastity. Chastity was a woman's most precious thing. This was a blatant deception. Well, Rangran, let me explain. Cheng Lingren's eyes were full of sadness. Jiang Xiu. She interrupted Jiang Xiu. This made Jiang Xiu have a bad feeling in his heart. Cheng Lingren never called his full name. This was going to spoil things. I don't need you to explain. The matter is very clear. Are you lame? Jiang Xiu said. This I don't think so. Didn't they say that girls were visual creatures? Now that he had a deified body, he was simply impeccably handsome. He believed that no ordinary woman could take their eyes off him. Moreover, he had a deep relationship with Cheng Lingran, who had an intimate relationship with him. But he miscalculated. Cheng Lingran was really not an ordinary woman. Since that's the case, I don't need to comfort you anymore. Let's end the improper relationship between us and be ordinary friends. Jiang Xiu's heart sank. Why? Did you think that I spent so much effort to deal with ants like Si Wuxia and the Zhuge family, or to take back what I lost and be the old Mr. Jiang? No, these are not important to me. I just want to give you a picturesque landscape and make you the happiest woman in the world. Cheng Lingran smiled, but the poignant beauty under that smile was heartbreaking. Thank you, but I don't have such good fortune, and I don't need it. Jiang Xiu, in the future you can be your Mr. Jiang, and I will be my Cheng Lingran. It's best that we don't contact each other. After that, Cheng Lingran turned around. The full moon was in the sky, the stars were twinkling, and the bustling city was full of traffic. But everything was so lonely that it made one's heart collapse. Everything was so far away from him. It was so close, but it was so far away. Jiang Xiu asked, why? Cheng Lingran left the last sentence. Because you make me feel strange. Jiang Xiu opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but all the words were stuck in his throat. He felt that he had done so much, but in the end it was indeed in vain. Wang Xintong came to his side. Zhuge Shi escaped through a special channel. Chapter 371. What? Zhuge Shi escaped? Jiang Xiu concealed the sadness in his eyes and said, where did he escape to? Wang Xintong said, according to the flight route, he should have turned from Shanghai to the capital. Prepare a plane for me. Wang Xintong said. You want to kill him? Jiang Xiu said expressionlessly. Do you think that I, Jiang Luoxia, am joking? I said that I want the whole Zhuge family to die without a burial place. But Wang Xintong felt the sadness in Jiang Xiu's heart and felt a little distressed. I know you are sad now, but don't be impulsive. Zhuge Shi must have gone to Diaoyutai. That is not a place for jokes. Jiang Xiu said. Wang Xintong, you talk more and more nonsense. If you don't want to work, get out. There are many people who want to take over your position. Why are you always like this? Sometimes she really hoped that Jiang Xiu was a playboy or a real heartless hero. In that case, maybe one day when she became more important, she would have the opportunity to accompany him. However, under the cold and arrogant appearance, there was a bigoted heart. The most pitiful and helpless thing in the world was to fall in love with someone who should not be loved. Forget her. She will only bring you pain, and you will only bring her confusion and pain. Both of you are in so much pain. Why do you have to be together? Do you have to torture each other? Wang Xintong's beautiful face twisted in pain. Her neck was once again strangled by the devil Jiang Xiu. She could not breathe and almost suffocated. At this moment, she realized that she had made a huge mistake. She should not have provoked Jiang Xiu at this time. He had already lost his mind and might really strangle her to death. However, she did not feel afraid at all. She even wanted to be strangled to death by Jiang Xiu. Shut up. Do you really think that I can use you and won't kill you? The shadow of death enveloped Wang Xintong. At the moment of death, she struggled with all her might. Only then did Jiang Xiu let go of her. Wang Xintong fell to the ground, gasping for breath. Book a plane for me. At the imperial capital's Diaoyu platform, a middle-aged man who looked like a clerk walked into the solemn meeting hall and whispered a few words to the person who was hosting the meeting. The person who was hosting the meeting said, Zhuge Shi is here. Everyone looked at each other. Let him in. As soon as Zhuge Shi set foot here, his hanging heart finally relaxed. His life was saved. No matter how strong Jiang Luoxia was, It was impossible for him to chase him all the way to Diaoyu Terrace. Zhuge Provincial Secretary, what is the situation in Jiangnan? Quickly tell us. Zhuge Shi closed his eyes painfully, tears of grief falling from his eyes. The muscles on his face were trembling as he said, "They're all dead, they're all dead." Sealing off Jiangnan, and letting the innocent disciples of the Zhuge family be like animals in cages, being hunted and killed at will. Leaders, please help me, help the Zhuge family, help the nobles of Jiangnan. They had a basic understanding of the situation. What Zhuge Shi said matched the information they received. Jiang Luoxia is a demon. Thinking about how hundreds of people were slaughtered, everyone's expression became very serious. Zhuge Shi gritted his teeth and said, Jiang Luoxia must be dealt with by the law. If he is not dealt with by the law, the heavens will not tolerate it. The person surnamed Yi said, Zhuge Provincial Secretary, don't worry. We will definitely deal with him seriously. We will not tolerate those who violate the law. Thank you, leader. My Zhuge family is finished. When he said this, the leaders present looked at him sympathetically. However, they were also scared. Jiang Luoxia's methods of dealing with his enemies were too cruel. He did not leave a single one alive. Not only the Zhuge family, even those who were close to the Zhuge family were killed. He was simply a tyrant. No, he was even more cruel than a tyrant. This person cannot be left alive. He must be severely punished. At this moment, there was a commotion outside. It was very chaotic. The leaders present could not help but frown. Fishing Terrace was a very serious and solemn place. No one was allowed to make a ruckus here. Whoever entered this place would speak in a lower voice. No one had ever caused trouble here before. Sir, you can't go in. Don't make things difficult for us. If you continue to act recklessly, we will shoot. The big boss said, What's going on? Go out and take a look. With a loud bang, the 9-meter-tall door twisted and exploded. Following that, a few bodyguards flew in and landed heavily on the ground. A demon-like figure appeared at the door. His long hair fluttered in the wind. His eyes flashed with lightning and thunder, but his face was extremely handsome. His posture was like a deep abyss. His eyes were cold as he stared at Zhuge Shi indifferently. I said before that I want the Zhuge family to die without a burial place. Zhuge Shi, even if you go to heaven or hell, I will die without a burial place. Jiang Luoxia, Jiang Luoxia. Zhuge Shi pointed at Jiang Xiu in horror. His whole body was trembling. Don't act recklessly. Do you know where this is? Jiang Xiu said. Is there something different here? Everyone present was furious. No one had ever dared to act recklessly here. The big boss said with a cold face, Mr. Jiang, don't you think it's inappropriate for you to barge in like this and threaten to kill the people of the Jiangnan frontier? Jiang Xiu said, It's indeed inappropriate. I think so too. But so what if it's inappropriate? I still remember that someone promised to let the Gu family take over the Jiangnan frontier, but he went back on his word. Isn't that inappropriate? Didn't he also do it? He said that he would let Gu Daji be promoted, but he also went back on his word. Isn't that inappropriate? Didn't he also do it? The big boss's face was a little ugly. Jiang Xiu slowly walked in front of Zhuge Shi. He grabbed Zhuge Shi's neck with one hand. Zhuge Shi's throat made cracking sounds under his strength. With a sudden force, Zhuge Shi's head fell off. Hiss. The powerful people present all felt a chill in their hearts. Cold sweat dripped down the forehead of the central official surnamed Yi. And his hands and feet trembled slightly. Too cruel, too ruthless. Throw Zhuge Shi out to feed the dogs. Whoever dares to make an enemy out of me, Jiang Luoxia, I will make sure that his entire family dies without a burial place. With such means, anyone who wanted to go against him would have to weigh their own weight, and whether they could bear the consequences. At the same time, they were confused. Why did the National Stone allow Jiang Luoxia to enter the Diaoyu platform? Did it think that he would not be a threat? However, Jiang Xiu entered the Diaoyu platform and killed people in front of everyone. This was an indisputable fact. Mr. Jiang, back then, everyone thought that you had died for the country. We also did not expect that the Zhuge family would illegally embezzle your assets like this. said one of the central officials who was close to the big boss. What about now? Now we must deal with the Zhuge family seriously. Although the Zhuge family is extinct, their illegal actions must be made public. Does anyone have any objections? The central officials present all shook their heads. In front of the god of death, who dared to say no? Weren't they afraid that he would twist your neck? Moreover, the central official who was close to the big boss spoke up. This was definitely the big boss's idea. Just like how no one supported Jiang Xiu back then, they would not support a dead person like Si Wuxia now. Although Jiang Luoxia had brazenly killed people on the Diaoyu platform, now that he had the power, they could only compromise. If they fell out with Jiang Xiu now, the situation would be disadvantageous. Jiang Xiu said. What about the Gu family's promise? Of course. There should be a lot of resistance to this matter, but since all the people in charge were present, there was naturally no resistance. Immediately inform Gu Dexiao to head to Jiangnan to take up his position without delay. Tell the Gu family to make arrangements for the vacated positions in Jiangnan as soon as possible. Although the Zhuge family had entered Jiangnan and taken over Wang Xintong's allocation of resources, the Zhuge family did not kill everyone because of Jiang Xiu. Instead, they fired everyone and gathered everyone again. They should be on the right track very quickly. The vacated positions in the government originally belonged to the Gu family, so everything would go back to how it was in the beginning. This world could continue to revolve without anyone. Jiang Xiu turned to leave. The big boss said, Mr. Jiang, please wait. We have something important to discuss. Let's go somewhere else. The smell of blood here was too strong. I don't have time for that. Jiang Xiu walked away. The big boss's expression was very awkward. He said, It seems that Mr. Jiang still has a lot of resentment. We did not handle this matter well back then. We should not have allowed Mr. Jiang's enemy to take over the Zhuge family. It is normal for Mr. Jiang to have resentment. Soon, news came from outside that the Sword Palace of Shishu had retreated to Huadong province and asked for Baimaner's protection. Chapter 372. If there was anyone in China who could protect the West Shu Sword Palace, it would be Bai Zhuang of East China. Si Wuxia had once told the disciples of the West Shu Sword Palace that Bai Zhuang's cultivation level was unfathomable. However, in terms of swordsmanship, he was above her. Jiang Luoxia had said that he would kill all the people of the Sword Palace of West Shu no matter what. Now that he was facing Bai Zhuang, would he dare to attack? Would Bai Zhuang protect the Sword Palace of West Shu? After the news spread, the entire martial arts world was in an uproar. Was the king going to meet the king? Jiang Luoxia was the top martial artist in China, and Bai Zhuang was the strongest demon god in China. Jiang Luoxia and Si Wuxia exploded without warning. But this battle was highly anticipated. Everyone was curious. Jiang Luoxia had killed Si Wuxia in such a powerful manner. Would he still be as powerful as he was when facing the demon god Bai Zhuang? However, something unexpected happened. When the Sword Palace of West Shu was about to retreat into East China, they were wiped out. Some people said that Jiang Luoxia's men did it, but others said that Bai Zhuang did it after receiving the letter. He did not want to provoke an enemy like Jiang Luoxia, but he did not want to lose face, so he sent people to kill the people of the Sword Palace of West Shu and enter East China. There were many different opinions, but it was a pity that the king did not meet the king. On the third day after the incident, the big boss went south to inspect Jiangnan. The arrival of the big boss played a great role in stabilizing the morale of the troops. After 3 days of inspection, Jiangnan was stabilized and everything was back on track. Lin Yueling began to talk about Sui Yuchen. After the incident more than a year ago, Sui Yuchen seemed to have disappeared from the face of the earth. Now that Jiang Xiu and Cheng Lingsu were divorced and Jiang Xiu had returned to the past, Lin Yueling wanted to find Sui Yuchen. After all, she was the second concubine that Jiang Xiu had personally carried into the family. Moreover, she was the descendant of her old friend. Son, did you send someone to look for him or not? Jiang Xiu could even influence the Diaoyu platform now. When the big boss went to Jiangnan, he told Jiang Xiu that the people from the Sword Palace of Shishu were dealt with by the Diaoyu platform. Their purpose was to prevent Jiang Xiu from meeting King Bai Zhuang. According to the big boss, the risk was too great. If Jiang Xiu won, everyone would be happy. If Jiang Xiu lost, then there would be no one in China who could go against Bai Zhuang. Once Bai Zhuang became ambitious, China would be in danger. Yes, I asked the special department to look for him, but they couldn't find him. He might have gone abroad. Lin Yueling missed him very much. Why did you go overseas? It's more chaotic overseas than at home. Jiang Xiu was still thinking about another person. He should have received news about her a long time ago, but he still hadn't received any news about her, and that was Miss Nangong Ko. The iron gate of the Nangong family's residence opened, and a black car drove in. Ko, you're finally back. After getting out of the car, Nangong Ko looked even more elegant. Among all of Jiang Xiu's female friends, she was the fastest to adapt to the changes in the world, and she was also the one who was most willing to adapt to the changes in the world. She had entered Harbin to gain experience, and this time she went out to cultivate. Dad, Mom. A beautiful lady looked at her precious daughter and said with a smile, "You went out to have fun, but you didn't become tanned. Instead, you became more tender." Nangong Ko giggled. "Of course, I'm a divine discoverer. As my cultivation improves, my skills will become stronger. I'm so envious of you." In 1.5 years, Nangong Ko had become a high-level warlord. Even if she became a high-level warlord, she would be a demigod, but it was really difficult to cross half of this threshold. Seeing the old servant of her family, Nangong Ko greeted him politely. "Uncle Men, long time no see. Miss, you're back." It was said that Uncle Men didn't have a name. He had been adopted by the Nangong family as a servant since he was a child. He thought that he didn't know anything except guarding the door, so he didn't know when everyone started calling him Uncle Men. Okay. When Uncle Men saw Nangong Ko walking away, he suddenly remembered something and said, "By the way, miss, when you weren't at home, a friend of yours came to see you about 10 days ago." "Friend? Who is he?" Uncle Men tried hard to remember, and he said, "I think his name is Jiang something. He said that he didn't die." Nangong Ko's expression changed. She didn't have many friends with the surname Jiang, and he was the only one who said that he didn't die. That person wasn't forgotten by time, and his image in her mind became clearer and clearer. When she opened and closed her eyes, she could see a carefree smile on his face. That person was Jiang Xiu. "Oh, is that so?" Nangong Ko's tone was so calm that even she couldn't believe it. "Okay, I got it." Her mother asked who it was, and Nangong Ko smiled and said that it was a friend. Nangong Ko often went out to train, and it was very dangerous. In fact, her mother was against it, but the leaders of the family all supported it. As a woman, she didn't have any say in such a big family, so she could only let her daughter develop. "Ko, your grandfather said that he wants you to go to Jiangnan." "Jiangnan?" Nangong Ko's expression became unnatural. "Yes, Jiangnan." Nangong Jin sat on the sofa and said, "Something big happened in Jiangnan, and the big boss went there for 3 days. You've heard of Jiang Luoxia, right? He's still alive and he's back. This person is really a peerless hero. He killed Si Wuxia, destroyed the Nangong family, and took control of Jiangnan." Nangong Ko said, "Really? He even killed Si Wuxia?" Nangong Jin sighed in amazement and said, "Yes, even Dio Yutai was shocked. He deserves the title of the most powerful person in China. However, we're in trouble now. The power in Jiangnan has been reshuffled, and our old connections are gone. The group is facing a lot of problems in Jiangnan. You can take charge now, so we want you to go and straighten out the group's affairs. Can't you let someone else go? Your grandfather thinks that you're the most suitable person. Since he said so, there's nothing I can do." Nangong Ko lowered her long eyelashes and said, "Since it's like this, I'll have to go. But don't have too much hope for me. Jiang Luoxia took control of Jiangnan again, and I'm afraid that it'll be difficult for him to keep his old power. We know that it'll be difficult, so we'll do our best." After returning to her room, Nangong Ko took out a camera that she had collected very well and clicked on it. When the image lit up, there was an extremely handsome man in it. Looking at him, Nangong Ko's gaze was somewhat moved, but she tried hard to restrain herself. For a long time, she thought that she was only interested in Jiang Xiu's beauty, and that she wanted to find a friend who could help her get rid of her loneliness. After all, she knew what her future would be like. However, when Jiang Xiu died, the pain that tore her apart made her realize that she might have really fallen in love with Jiang Xiu. In the past year or so, she wanted to forget everything that had happened between her and Jiang Xiu. She seemed to have succeeded, but it seemed that she didn't succeed at all. Instead, his impression of her became deeper and deeper. However, when Uncle Men told her that Jiang Xiu was still alive, she was very scared. What was wrong with Jiang Xiu? He already had 2 wives, one older and one younger. It was okay to play with him, but if they really fell in love with each other, it would be a tragedy. When she was looking at the photo in a daze, her phone, which had just been charged, rang. The name Jiang Xiu was displayed on the screen. What she was afraid of had come true. She hesitated and wanted to reach out her hand to pick it up, but then she hesitated and stopped. Time passed little by little. Finally, the phone stopped ringing. She picked up the phone and took out the SIM card. She walked into the bathroom and threw it into the toilet. She pressed the flush button hard, and the SIM card was flushed away with the sound of water splashing. She wanted to change her SIM card. In addition, she had already decided that this trip to Jiangnan was just a formality. With Jiang Luoxia's status, he wouldn't pay attention to a small biological group at all. As far as she knew, it was the Wang family in Jiangnan who took care of it. Ko, come down and eat. Nangong Ko responded and put the camera back into the cabinet. Then she went downstairs. When she saw the table full of dishes, she showed a charming smile. When I'm away from home, what I miss most is my mom's braised pork trotters. Eat more if you like. Nangong Jin also said with a smile. Your mom only cooks once when you come back. It's all thanks to you that your dad can do this. Then why did you ask me to go to Jiangnan? Nangong Jin said. What can our Ko do? She's already an advanced warlord. She's even more powerful than your cousins. By the way, when do you plan to go? I'll ask someone to book the ticket. Chapter 373. Nangong Ko always looked pleasing in any kind of clothes. She was wearing an ordinary white t-shirt and a pair of light blue jeans, which made her look very comfortable. This was the second time she came to Jiangnan. The last time was more than 3 years ago. These 3 years were the 3 years when Jiangnan's economy took off the most. The pace of development was not worse than that of the capital. However, there was a person in this place whom she could not explain clearly. When she came to his territory, that heartless smiling face would always inadvertently appear in her mind. She wanted to meet him by chance, but she was afraid that she would really meet him by chance. A business car drove over, and a young man got out of the car. When he saw Nangong Ko, he complained. How can you do reception work like this? If you let me stand here alone and wait, what if someone kidnaps me? Beautiful women had their natural advantages. No matter how rude she was, the young man would still think that she was beautiful. I saw you walk out less than a minute ago, Nangong Ko insisted. It's dangerous even for a minute. You have to treat me to dinner tonight as punishment. The young man shook his head helplessly. Why did we have a little witch like you in our family? Grandpa sent you here, and now we're in trouble. We're protesting on behalf of everyone in the branch company. Nangong Ko couldn't help but smile like a flower. Your protest is invalid. You'll be put to death. This young man was Nangong Ko's cousin Nangong Nan. Looking at the scenery of Jiangnan outside the window, Nangong Ko asked, What's the situation in Jiangnan now? Nangong Nan said, It's peaceful on the surface, but the living environment of the biological group will definitely change greatly. According to our speculation, after Jiang Luoxia regains control of Jiangnan, what happened last time won't happen again. Jiangnan will be prosperous in the next few years, so this opportunity is very important. Whoever gets to the top will be able to gain a foothold, and whoever doesn't get to the top will be kicked out. Nangong Ko said, The more turbulent the situation is, the more we should stand on the shore and wait for the changes. Who knows where the big waves will hit? Nangong Nan soon understood his cousin's idea. He sighed sincerely. Our main goal now is to build a good relationship with Wang Xintong. She's Jiang Luoxia's spokesperson and the leader of the Wang family. Wang Xintong? A woman? How old is he? Yes, a woman in her 20s. She's a talented businesswoman and a top-notch beauty. She's smart, capable, and has a high EQ. She can deal with all kinds of forces with ease. She's not just a vase who uses Jiang Luoxia's name. Nangong Koer said, she's just a pretty vase. Hey Ko, is it natural for beautiful women to be hostile to beautiful women? If you have this idea, you'd better not meet Wang Xintong. After they arrived at the hotel, Nangong Koer took a bath and changed into a fresh set of clothes. Her white and tender skin looked even whiter after she had just taken a bath. She wore a pair of shorts, and her beautiful legs swayed in the air. Is it difficult to meet Jiang Luoxia? Nangong Nan lit a cigar, crossed his legs and said, It's very difficult. Jiang Luoxia lives in seclusion in Jiang City. Except for a few of his confidants, no one else can see him. Not to mention Jiang Luoxia, even Wang Xintong can't meet him. Miss Ko came to the window and felt the warmth of the sunlight coming in through the window. You're quite arrogant. Prepare a car for me. I'm going to Jiang City. Nangong Nan couldn't help but sit up straight and say, You're going to Jiang City to meet Jiang Luoxia directly? Ko thought that she couldn't wait to avoid him, but she also wanted to see how he was doing now. Give me Jiang Luoxia's living habits and itinerary. Ko, you can't be impulsive. This man is temperamental and vicious. If you meet him recklessly, it may not be a good thing. Then I'll go back to the capital. Nangong Nan raised his hands hurriedly. Ko was an imperial envoy this time, so he had to cooperate unconditionally. Okay, I'll get it for you right away. I've already made an appointment with Wang Xintong for tomorrow. Can you come back tomorrow? Okay. Wang Xintong finally got through the busiest days, and the rest of her life would be relaxed. According to her usual habits, she would definitely go abroad for a vacation. Her lifestyle was very foreign, but now it was very chaotic abroad. Only Hua Land could be considered a peaceful place. As for where to go, she hadn't thought about it yet. Before that, she had one more important thing to do. On her desk was a file with the word Top Secret on it. She took out a photo from the file. It was a stone. On the file it was written, Guardian Spiritual Stone. That should be it. This should be the longevity talisman stone he's looking for. His heart was filled with both joy and worry. The matter that Jiang Xiu had entrusted him with was finally beginning to take shape. But what worried him was that this stone was actually the guardian spirit stone of Diaoyu Terrace. She took out her phone and called Jiang Xiu. I found the longevity rune stone you asked me to find, but it's very unlikely that I can get it. Jiang Xiu asked, Where is it? It's the guardian spiritual stone of Diaoyu Terrace. According to the records, it first appeared during the Ming dynasty. Emperor Tianqi obtained the guardian spiritual stone and placed it in the palace. At that time, the Yuan clan of the ancient desert city took revenge. Of course, this revenge was definitely a failure. 6 longevity rune stones fell into various places, and one of them fell into the hands of the Ming dynasty's royal family. Jiang Xiu wasn't surprised. Emperor Tianqi was only 23 years old, so he couldn't rule out the possibility that it had something to do with this longevity rune stone. Jiang Xiu asked, Guardian spiritual stone? Yes, you know how superstitious we Chinese people are. If you want this thing, Diaoyu Terrace will definitely not give it to you. Also, don't try to force it. Diaoyu Terrace isn't as simple as it seems. It wasn't a coincidence that Hua Land was able to keep a piece of land in this chaotic era, when other countries were in chaos. The Sword Palace of West Shu was indeed powerful, but it had been silently annihilated by the Diaoyu platform. This was the best proof. Do you think I'm a robber? Wang Xintong asked. Aren't you? You're getting more and more arrogant. Wang Xintong was afraid of Jiang Xiu, but she liked to tremble in front of Jiang Xiu. Sometimes she felt like she was walking on a tightrope, constantly testing Jiang Xiu's bottom line. She was like a child who wanted to attract the attention of an adult. I want to dance for you. Jiang Xiu sighed. Don't humiliate yourself. Wang Xintong pursed her lips and her eyes turned red. A tyrant trying to persuade a woman who wants to go to hell not to humiliate herself. Her tears couldn't stop. Don't you think it's funny? Jiang Xiu said. Contact the boss and ask him what he wants in exchange. Wang Xintong said. Okay. About a minute later, Wang Xintong called Jiang Xiu back. I've contacted the boss. He said that the stone spirit is important and can't be given away. In the preliminary negotiations, the boss wants to reclaim East China and exchange it with East China. However, this is only the boss's opinion. If it's to be implemented, it has to be decided at a meeting. Jiang Xiu said. Diaoyu Terrace doesn't want me to meet Bai Zhuang, right? It was too risky for a king to meet another king unless there was no other choice. Wang Xintong said. So the possibility of this proposal being passed at the meeting is very low. I must get the longevity rune stone. He was now an intermediate god, but his cultivation progress was too slow. He couldn't even finish the second stroke of the second divine Tao diagram. If he wanted to become a superior god, it wasn't enough to just comprehend the laws of fire. Moreover, the longevity rune stone was formed in 5 pieces. Once it was complete, it would definitely make a qualitative leap. After all, this was a strange stone rune that could allow another world to descend. It was so mysterious that Jiang Xiu hadn't seen it even in the immortal martial continent. Tell Big Boss what I said. He must make it happen. I can take out a demigod or even a divine martial art to exchange with him. Moreover, it's the kind that can be widely spread in the army. Wang Xintong said. I've already mentioned it, but Big Boss doesn't like it. People of his generation care a lot about feng shui and fate. Moreover, the ancestors said that the spiritual stone of the nation is related to the fate of the country. Wang Xintong was a master negotiator, so she had to make an empty promise first. If Jiang Xiu hadn't crushed her in terms of strength. Even so, Jiang Xiu sometimes couldn't handle it. Let's wait and see. Maybe there will be a new proposal at the meeting. At this time, Jiang Xiu saw a beautiful figure coming out of the Cheng clan building. He hung up the phone and went to greet her. When Cheng Lingran saw him, the smile on her face disappeared. She pretended not to see him. Can we talk? In the distance, in a white Maserati, Miss Ko picked up a camera and took photos like a paparazzi. Chapter 374. They were in the CBD business district, and there were many luxurious cars parked by the roadside. Sitting in the Maserati, Nangong Koer didn't attract any attention. Through the camera, she stared at Jiang Xiu and Cheng Lingran while pressing the camera button. Cheng Lingran looked at the boy in front of her and smiled politely. I still have something to do here. Shall we meet again next time? Right now, Cheng Lingran was humble, polite, and courteous to him as if he was a friend. She showed excellent self-cultivation, but this sense of distance made Jiang Xiu feel that she was gradually drifting away from him. Jiang Xiu said, It won't take up too much of your time. He had never met Cheng Lingran like this before, so he didn't know how to deal with her. Cheng Lingran said, But we really have something to do here? Cheng Lingran's colleague, who was standing next to them, knew that this handsome guy might be one of Cheng Lingran's admirers, but she didn't seem to have a good impression of him. As a good friend, she didn't want Cheng Lingran to be harassed, but it wasn't convenient for her to say anything, so she just played along with Cheng Lingran. Jiang Xiu saw that the third wheel didn't respond, so he went straight to the point. Are you really going to treat me like this? Cheng Lingran said. I really have something to do. Jiang Xiu said. Are you still angry with me? Cheng Lingran said. No, it's been so long. I'm not so petty. You're not angry? Jiang Xiu looked straight into her limpid eyes and saw through her heart. If you're not angry, why don't you come to me? Can the Cheng clan's real estate still pay this month's salary? It was very strange that the Jiang family's executioner, Jiang Xiu, didn't do anything to the Zhuge family and their vassals, and he didn't even mention it. Therefore, there was a huge change in personnel in Jiangnan, except for Jiang City. As long as Jiang City didn't do anything, the Cheng clan's predicament didn't change. The Cheng clan's real estate had one foot on the edge of the cliff, and it could collapse again at any time. Last time, it could be said that Jiang Xiu deliberately did it. But this time, it had nothing to do with him, and he just stood by and watched. If Cheng Lingran wasn't angry with him, with Jiang Xiu's current power in Jiangnan, he could solve the Cheng clan's crisis with just one word. As long as Cheng Lingran asked, he would definitely help. However, Cheng Lingran would rather her family go bankrupt than ask for his help. And she said that she wasn't angry. This was clearly drawing a clear line between her and Jiang Xiu. Cheng Lingran said, whether the Cheng clan can pay the salary or not, it doesn't seem to be your concern. Jiang Xiu said, the Cheng clan is your father's painstaking effort. Some people say that they are the eldest in the family, and they want to protect the family business even if they die. Is this what you mean by protecting the family business? Just to be angry with me? Cheng Lingran stared at Jiang Xiu's face. Then what do you want me to do? Beg for your help, and even sleep with you as the price? Jiang Xiu looked at Cheng Lingran in astonishment. He couldn't believe that these words came from her, who was as gentle as water. A trace of bitterness flashed through his eyes. One had to know that there were outsiders around. He guiltily turned his face to the side. The person beside them saw that the situation seemed to be a little serious and said, well, Ran, I'll go to the dining room and wait for you. After he left, Jiang Xiu said, sister, I've never lied to you. Cheng Lingran looked at Jiang Xiu's legs. His legs were slender and strong, supporting Jiang Xiu's extraordinary posture. Where was he lame? Where exactly was he lame? She said sarcastically, this is what you mean by you've never lied to me. Jiang Xiu said, that's not what I meant. I'm saying. Cheng Lingran shook her head at him. Jiang Xiu, you're too powerful. We sisters have become your playthings. We admit it. We can't afford to offend you. Now that you've gotten my man, can you let us go on account of our old friendship? Jiang Xiu laughed. However, only he knew the bitterness behind this smile. Is there anything else? If not, I'm leaving. After Cheng Lingran took a few steps away, Jiang Xiu said, one last time. What did you say? Jiang Xiu said, accompany me one last time. Cheng Lingran obviously understood what he meant by one last time. Her pretty face turned red. She was shy, but more than that, she was angry. Extremely angry. Jiang Xiu, are you still human? Jiang Xiu said, do you want to reject me? Let me give you a piece of advice. It's best if you don't. A cold-blooded person like me might do something to you and your family. You. Jiang Xiu grabbed Cheng Lingran's arm and walked towards the Cheng clan building. It was after work, so there was no one in the building. Cheng Lingran struggled. Let go. Let go of me, you bastard. After entering the elevator, Jiang Xiu began to violate Cheng Lingran. In a sorrowful world, she struggled with all her might. Her body was full of scars and tears. The mirror of the elevator reflected their entangled shadows. The corridor echoed with heart-wrenching cries. The door was pushed open. It was still the beautiful lounge. The small bed was filled with Cheng Lingran's seductive body fragrance. Today the bedsheet was snow-white. Cheng Lingran used her heels to forcefully plow 2 straight grooves on it. However, in the next moment, she kicked it into a mess. No, let me go. Let me go. The sounds of begging, crying, and breathing converged together and finally turned into soft panting sounds. After a long time, Jiang Xiu looked at her charming and delicate tear-stained face. His heart was unable to calm down. Cheng Lingran said, I will definitely call the police. I will definitely. However, in the next second, she was so scared that her face turned pale. She hurriedly said, no, don't. You're too. My face is red and swollen. Can't you see? Jiang Xiu said, let me take a look. Cheng Lingran knew that she had said something wrong. She was so scared that she hurriedly turned over. However, she didn't know that such a posture made it easier for the spring breeze to pass through the jade door. She was sparkling and translucent like white jade. Jiang Xiu's excited and trembling voice came from behind her. Give it to me, quickly give it to me. After a long time, Cheng Lingran fell asleep as if she had collapsed. Jiang Xiu's mouth continuously spat out incantations. Word by word, the words turned into a fierce golden light that entered her smooth back. For a moment, the lounge was filled with shining sand. Jiang Xiu's forehead was also dripping with sweat, which was rare. It seemed that doing this was extremely taxing on his mind. Then, the characters slowly formed a unique array and finally entered her body, planting an amulet. This method was far beyond what Jiang Xiu could perform with his current cultivation level. However, the inner core amulet had been taken away by Cheng Lingsu. He couldn't ask for it back. Even if he did, Cheng Lingran wouldn't want it. She would still give it to her younger sister, or even directly return it to him. Therefore, Jiang Xiu could only take the risk and plant the Tianqing School's supreme secret amulet in Cheng Lingran's body. The Tianqing School's amulet was the Tianqing School's supreme secret. Only the sect master could cultivate it. Moreover, only those who had considerable knowledge of formations could cultivate it. In fact, most people wouldn't cultivate this thing. This was because it was useless to cultivators. It was purely damaging one's own cultivation level to help others. Moreover, it was very dangerous to cultivate it. The reason why the sect master of the Tianqing school wanted to cultivate it was to protect extremely talented disciples from being killed by other sections. Today, Jiang Xiu planted the Tianqing school's amulet in Cheng Lingran's body to keep her safe. Jiang Xiu covered Cheng Lingran with a blanket. Then he slowly stood up and walked out weakly. He walked very slowly, like an 80-year-old man who was about to die. Before he walked out, he looked back at his wife from his previous life. His eyes were full of pain. Suddenly, the smell of blood rushed into his nose. He reached out to cover his nose. When he opened his hand again, his palm was full of blood. Blood dripped through the gaps between his fingers and fell to the ground, smashing into pieces. It was already late at night. The white Maserati was still parked there. Jiang Xiu walked past it weakly. He even pressed one of his hands against the window. After he took a deep breath, he continued to walk forward. Nangong Ko, who was inside the car, was so nervous that her heart almost jumped out of her chest. She thought that she had been discovered, but Jiang Xiu didn't even look inside the car. After he left, Nangong Ko, got out of the car. Only then did she notice that there was a bloody handprint on the window. She was very puzzled. Why did he seem to be seriously injured? Did he get injured when he fought with Si Wuxia? No, he was still full of energy when he was quarreling with his wife. She thought fiercely that his wife must be a vixen. Did she suck all of his energy? Chapter 375. Looking at the direction where Jiang Xiu had left, Miss Ko, felt a little sad. She didn't expect that he would love his wife so much that he would try to win her back. However, Miss Ko, mistook Cheng Lingsu for Cheng Lingran when she saw the photos. Miss Ko, had seen Cheng Lingsu's photos before, and she had seen a girl who looked like Cheng Lingsu and was talking to Jiang Xiu. Of course, Miss Ko mistook Cheng Lingsu for Miss Ko. However, judging from Jiang Xiu's sad face, Miss Ko guessed that he had failed to reconcile with Jiang Xiu and suffered from an old disease. Even if Jiang Xiu had divorced his first wife, he still had a second wife. Nangong Ko wouldn't really date him. She was a very rational girl, and she could feel that Jiang Xiu didn't love her. Anyway, it was still the same old saying. When it came to true feelings, whoever took it seriously would suffer a tragedy. Moreover, Jiang Xiu was a man who already had someone in his heart. She realized that she couldn't afford to play with him. If she couldn't afford to play with him, then she wouldn't play with him anymore. Although she often said that she didn't want him, and her body was very honest, she didn't dare to date him this time. There was a bottomless abyss in front of her. She started the car and drove to the intersection. Seeing Jiang Xiu being picked up by a black Mercedes-Benz, she didn't follow him. Her company had arranged for her to meet Wang Xintong the next day, and she had to go back to Hangzhou City now. Rolling down the window, Miss Ko's hair flew in the wind. She turned into the intersection not far away, and found Jiang Xiu's number 2 middle school. That day, she had come to see Jiang Xiu, but he had pointed a fat boy to her, which had made her cry. In the blink of an eye, more than 3 years had passed. She had grown up from a young girl, but she still left Jiang City alone. Jiang Luoxia. It's really hard to find. I didn't meet him. Yes. I'm coming back now. He said again. Farewell to Jiang City, Jiang Xiu, we will never meet again. The Maserati sped away. When Cheng Lingran slowly woke up, she found that it was already dark outside. It was very quiet outside, and even the sound of the car could not be heard. As expected, it was already late at night or even early in the morning. Jiang Xiu was no longer there. Thinking of what had just happened, she felt wronged and wanted to cry, but she was more disappointed in her heart. Before this, she actually had hope for Jiang Xiu. They had been together for 20 years. From the moment Jiang Xiu was born, she had been curiously watching from the side until now. It was impossible for her to completely cut off everything with him just because of one mistake. She just couldn't accept it at the moment, and couldn't get over the psychological barrier. However, after what happened during the day, she had completely lost all hope for Jiang Xiu. Of course, she wouldn't call the police. Not to mention that it was useless. Even if it was useful, she wouldn't. She couldn't bear for him to bear such a mistake. However, she was very confused and hesitant in her heart. She was worried that Jiang Xiu would continue to harass her. What should she do then? Walking towards the washroom, she didn't care about the few stains on the floor. She turned on the shower and let the warm water wash her body. However, she recalled the first time she was here with Jiang Xiu. The beautiful past had turned into a stain. After showering, she came to the stains on the floor and wiped them with a wet towel. It was clean easily. She sniffed her cute nose and frowned. Why does it smell like blood? She counted the days. It was still early. Could it be his? She stood up and saw that there was blood on the door handle as well. She wiped it dry with a towel. It must be him. What happened to him? At this moment, Cheng Lingran thought of a saying. Curiosity killed the cat. This must be that guy's conspiracy again. Don't think that I'll fall for it again. It's enough to pretend to be pitiful once. You must be dreaming if you think that I'll fall for the same trick. Cheng Lingran, who felt that her IQ was online, ignored this abnormal situation beautifully. The next day was a sunny day. A breeze blew by the riverside and ripples appeared on the surface of the river. The sun shone on the surface of the river and sparkled. The CBD business district slowly became noisy. There were also employees coming in and out of the Cheng clan building. The Cheng clan kept retrenching and retrenching. The once famous real estate group in Jiangqing was on the decline. Good morning, Chairman. Good morning. Good morning, Chairman. Cheng Hanlin also appeared in the company today. He forced a smile. Today was the date that only he knew. It was the last day of the repayment. Moreover, it was the last day of the 3 months. The court and the bank were going to close the building today. The people who closed the building either came in the morning or the afternoon. Perhaps they could delay it for a few days by acting shamelessly. But what was the use of that? Dad. Seeing that his daughter was staying in the company tonight, Cheng Hanlin felt guilty. He forced a smile and said, "You're working overtime here again. It's been hard on you." Cheng Lingran smiled and went over to hold her father's arm. "It's been hard on you. I'm your daughter. It's my duty to do something for this family. Dad, don't worry. No matter what happens in the future, with your daughter's ability, I can still provide you and Mom with food and clothing." Cheng Hanlin nodded with relief. "Today, there's an important announcement that I'm going to make. I wanted to inform you in advance. This building." He looked at the foundation that he had worked so hard for. "The mortgage for this building is up in 3 months. If I don't pay up, the court will come to close the building in a while, or they will come in the afternoon." Cheng Lingran's eyes widened. She said in surprise, "What?" "Yes, it's today. Ran, I'm useless. I can't protect the Cheng clan anymore." As he said that, Cheng Hanlin's eyes reddened. He was bankrupt again. This time, it was even more painful than the last time. Last time, he felt that he was still young and could make a comeback. But this time he was old. More importantly, he had no energy after the car accident. It was difficult for him to sit for a long time, let alone work. No matter how strong you are or how wise you are, when you are old, you might need someone to help you pee. Being a hero past his prime, the sorrowful mood made hot tears fall from Cheng Hanlin's eyes. He hurriedly wiped them away, not wanting his daughter to see a joke. "Dad." Cheng Hanlin smiled and said, "It's okay. It's not like our family hasn't experienced it before. I'm already very lucky. You and Susu have grown up. God has been very kind to me." Although he said that, the sadness and disappointment in his eyes could not be hidden. It's okay. We can definitely get through this. Dad, wait for me. Chung Lingran returned to her office. She pursed her red lips and hesitated for a moment. In the end, she picked up the phone, found Jiang Xiu's number, and dialed it. Although she knew that this was very depraved and despicable, she felt that she should make this call. She really couldn't bear to see her father's lonely look. She also couldn't bear the scene of the bank closing the building. However, the phone rang for a long time, but Jiang Xiu didn't pick it up. He had severely hurt Chung Lingran and completely destroyed himself. From now on, he would never see Chung Lingran again. He would wholeheartedly pursue the path of cultivation. Bastard, Jiang Xiu, you bastard. You didn't keep your word. Chung Lingran cursed loudly. Her heart was filled with grievances, and her tears were about to fall uncontrollably. Jiang Xiu promised to help her family solve the problem. He had already done that yesterday, but he deliberately didn't pick up the phone. He was too much of a bully. Looking down from the window, she saw the court's car parked downstairs. The bank's car had also arrived. They were going to start closing the building. She picked up the phone again, and was about to call Jiang Xiu, but the phone rang. Hello, is this Vice President Chung? This is the Quality Inspection Department. We have already inspected the Chung clan's buildings. There are no problems. All the buildings have been unsealed. You can start selling them now. What did you say? She was a little in disbelief. The quality of the Chung clan's buildings has passed. We can sell them now. Chung Lingran was so happy that she almost shouted. Thank you, thank you. However, she knew in her heart that Jiang Xiu must have spoken. The law enforcement officers who had already arrived downstairs received the call, got back into the car, and left. The problem was solved. The problem that had almost suffocated the Chung clan was solved so easily. Jiang Xiu had fulfilled his promise. What happened last night had become a naked transaction. The door was pushed open with a bang. Chung Hanlin was so excited that he almost jumped up. Rangrand, my friend who works in the government, told me that the quality of our buildings is fine. We can start selling them now. It's okay. The Chung clan is fine now. Chung Lingran replied with an oh and squeezed out a smile. Her smile was like a withered rose petal in the wind. It was so sad and beautiful that it was intoxicating. Chapter 376. In Hangzhou, Nangong Ko, and her cousin Nangong Nan, were waiting for Wang Xintong in the Zhongtian building. Wang Xintong was also waiting for the result of the meeting on Diaoyu platform. Unexpectedly, when the meeting proposal was about to be passed, a major incident occurred in the Guangdong and Guangxi provinces, which was as serious as the one in East China. A South China tiger in the Guangdong and Guangxi provinces was awakened, and the word king appeared on its forehead. Its body was covered in runes, and it turned into a human named Guangqing. It gathered all the strange beasts in the Guangdong and Guangxi provinces, and asked the humans to leave the Guangdong and Guangxi provinces. A master in the Diaoyu platform said that if they lost the kingdom-guarding spiritual stone, the Hua nation would lose its power of suppression, and countless strange beasts and humans would awaken and evolve. At that time, the country would no longer be a country. In the end, the meeting was rejected. Wang Xintong called Jiang Xiu back, and it was not hard to imagine how Jiang Xiu would react when he heard the news. He drew a clear line between himself and Chung Lingran, and lost the opportunity to improve his cultivation. Since her master was in a bad mood, Wang Xintong was also in a bad mood. Nangong Ko, who was waiting outside, didn't know what was going on inside. When she saw the door of Wang Xintong's office being opened by the secretary, she stood up politely. She was quite nervous, since this was related to the rise and fall of her family. The secretary was a beautiful woman, and she wore a polite smile on her face. She was wearing a professional suit, and she looked quite beautiful. I'm really sorry, but President Wang doesn't have time to see you today. Nangong Ko's smile stiffened. Please talk to President Wang again. We're really sincere, and we've been waiting here for the whole morning. The secretary shook her head. I'm sorry, but President Wang has too many people to see. How about I arrange another time for you? Nangong Ko and Nangong Nan looked at each other. Now that Wang Xintong was in charge of the huge Jiang Empire, she was extremely powerful, and they couldn't do anything about it. Now that they were asking her for help, of course they had to do it. No matter how unwilling they were, they still had to put on an indifferent expression and said with a smile, "Since President Wang is busy, then we can only do it another day." The secretary took out Wang Xintong's schedule and said, "The next week's schedule is full, so let's meet at 10 a.m. next Wednesday." He had been waiting for a week. This was comparable to meeting the head of state. "All right then. Let's do it next Monday at 30. If you continued to talk to this secretary, you might not even have the chance to meet her next time. There were too many people in Jiangnan biology group who wanted to meet Wang Xintong. How is it? Now you know how difficult it is to deal with Jiang Luoxia. Let's go back to the hotel first. In Jiangnan, Jiang Xiu's shadow was everywhere. Even the hotel Wang Xintong was staying in now belonged to Jiang Xiu. She said, "The person today should be Wang Xintong's #1 secretary. She seems to know Wang Xintong's schedule. If you want to see her, you don't have to follow the rules and make a formal appointment. You can just meet her by chance." Nan said, "All right, I'll get someone to contact this big secretary." What's the relationship between Wang Xintong and Jiang Luoxia? I'm not sure. It's possible that he valued her ability. We can't rule out the possibility of that kind of relationship. However, Jiang Luoxia basically left everything to her to handle, and didn't care about it anymore. Nan Gongko imported her photos into the computer. She had secretly taken many photos of Cheng Lingran. "This woman is," Nan Gongko said, "she's Jiang Luoxia's ex-wife. If we can't deal with Wang Xintong, we can think of a way through her. I saw that Jiang Luoxia wanted to get back together with her." Nan looked at the photos carefully. The girl in the photos had a graceful and gentle temperament. She was also older than Cheng Lingsu in the photos he saw. One of them had the temperament of a beautiful girl, while the other had the temperament of a woman. No, although they look alike, she's not Jiang Luoxia's wife. This should be Jiang Luoxia's elder sister-in-law, the current vice president of the Cheng clan, Cheng Lingran. She's not Cheng Lingsu. As a young master who had seen countless women, he still had the ability to distinguish between sisters. What, she's not Jiang Luoxia's wife? She's his elder sister-in-law? Take Cheng Lingsu's photos and compare them. Miss Ko picked up the files, took out the photos and compared them with the computer screen. It was obvious that they were not the same person. There was a mistake. "Hey," Miss Ko's expression was a little strange. Why did he and his elder sister-in-law have a quarrel in public? Anyone who wasn't blind could see that the quarrel was an emotional dispute. Besides, Jiang Xiu pulled her into the building and came out in the middle of the night. He has an affair with his elder sister-in-law. Jiang Xiu's lonely and pained eyes flashed in his mind. No way, the person he really loves is his elder sister-in-law. Nan's eyes were also burning with the fire of gossip. This was more exciting than listening to the gossip of stars. It was a real person and a gossip about Jiang Luoxia. No wonder he divorced his younger sister. It turns out that he fell in love with her elder sister. Miss Ko glared at Nan and scolded him. "You men are all bad." Inexplicably, Nan felt more wrong than Dou-yi. Now it's easy. No matter who these photos are given to, I think Jiang Luoxia will definitely support the development of our group in Jiangnan, Nan Gongko said. Nan's face was a little pale. "You want to threaten Jiang Luoxia? Do you want to die? Do you know what will happen to those who threaten him? Their whole families will be killed. He is a tyrant, a super tyrant." Thinking of the hunting in Jiangnan that day, Nan's pale face was covered with cold sweat. He wouldn't dare to do such a thing even if he was 100 times braver. "Who told you to threaten Jiang Luoxia? Give the photos to Wang Xintong or his elder sister-in-law. What's her name again? Cheng Lingran, right? Give them to one of them." This kind of scandal, Jiang Luoxia must think for his daughter, if he doesn't think for himself. He just supports the development of our group in Jiangnan. Wang Xintong will definitely deal with this kind of trivial matter. Nan was still a little worried. Will it work? Remove the B part. If anything happens, I will take responsibility. Then should I give it to Wang Xintong or Cheng Lingran? Nan Gongkou pondered. If she gave it to Cheng Lingran, she would have to take the photos to Jiang Xiu in the end, and Wang Xintong had the ability to deal with it. Find Wang Xintong. That afternoon, Wang Xintong took a plane to Jiang City. In the evening, she booked a dinner on Jiang City. Standing on the deck of the restaurant, she felt the wind blowing against her face. In the evening, the waves on the river were relatively big. In her heart, she was holding the photo of Jiang Xiu and Cheng Lingran that was handed to her. The fact that the person Jiang Xiu loved was Cheng Lingran was Jiang Xiu's secret. Except for her, no one else in the world knew about it. The person who handed her the photo obviously knew about it. Jiang Xiu cared about this matter very much. He would never let Cheng Lingran get hurt. Therefore, they had to agree to the person's condition. However, Wang Xintong quite admired this person's courage. He actually dared to threaten Jiang Luoxia's head. He was simply acting recklessly. If she were to tell Jiang Xiu, according to Jiang Xiu's nature, he would definitely kill the entire family to silence them. This was his biggest reverse scale. There were French dishes, snails, lobsters, and steak on the table. It was a romantic candlelight dinner. The soothing and melodious sound of the violin sounded. Jiang Xiu appeared in the distance. Although Jiang Luoxia's name was well known in Jiangnan's upper class, there were not many people in Jiang City who really knew him. He was not a public figure. Wang Xintong turned around with a happy smile on her face. He walked straight to the table and sat down. Wang Xintong walked over elegantly. She sat opposite him in a dignified and demure manner. She gently picked up the wine glass and swayed the red wine inside. "It's so comfortable here." She took a sip and said, "Will you dance with me?" Jiang Xiu said here. Wang Xintong rolled her eyes. "What are you thinking? It's a proper ballroom dance." Jiang Xiu shook his head. He was not interested. Wang Xintong took out a photo, placed it on the table, and pushed it over. "I received this today. The person who sent me this photo must be someone very close to you. Otherwise, she wouldn't know about your ambiguous relationship with Cheng Lingran." Jiang Xiu and Cheng Lingran were childhood sweethearts. This matter was not difficult to investigate. Since she sent this photo, of course, she knew that there was something between the two of them. "Let her be," Jiang Xiu said calmly. Wang Xintong could not believe it. She knew very well how much Jiang Xiu cared about Cheng Lingran. "What's wrong? Did you break up? Mind your own business. Arrange a plane for me. I'm going to Huadong tomorrow." Chapter 377. He decided to let go of Cheng Lingran. His ill-fated relationship with her started from the tragedy of the Jiang family in his last life, and ended when Jiang Luoxia ruled Jiangnan in this life. Jiang Xiu was not a free and easy person. If he was, he would not have held on to Cheng Lingsu so tightly in his last life. He had lost all his dignity and pestered her endlessly. However, after experiencing the tragic fate of his last life, he had come to his senses. In addition, he had more than 3,000 years of life and death battles. Although he was not a free and easy person, he had an incomparable tolerance and a terrifying willpower. It was enough for him to cut off all ties and hide his feelings. Wang Xintong was shocked. "You're going to East China? You're going to see Baizhuang?" Since ancient times, no matter whether it was at home or abroad, a king would not meet another king unless it was absolutely necessary. Jiang Xiu's words were earth-shattering. In order to avoid such a situation, Dao Yutai even wiped out the sword palace of Shishu. But now, Jiang Xiu wanted to go to East China. "Are you sure you can win?" Jiang Xiu had seen Baizhuang before. He was on the plain when the 100 birds worshipped the phoenix hid the sword radiance of heaven and earth. He did not know his specific cultivation level, but the power of the sword radiance of heaven and earth was quite terrifying. It was not comparable to Si Wuxia. Moreover, Baizhuang's origin was mysterious. He did not know if he was a native demon god of earth, or if he came from another world. He had an ancient feeling about him. Observing his methods in dealing with East China, it did not seem like he was dealing with people and strange beasts for the first time. Jiang Xiu did not have full confidence in facing him. He shook his head. A cultivator must have the determination to cut through all obstacles. The stronger the opponent, the stronger the steel. Wang Xintong's face turned pale. Jiang Xiu took out a book, placed it on the table, and pushed it to Wang Xintong. This is the secret of cultivation. I see that your spiritual roots are abundant. You are a good candidate for immortal cultivation. This book is enough for you to become an earth immortal. With the help of the art of creation of heaven and earth, it is impossible for you to enter the golden elixir realm. Everything depends on you. Wang Xintong said. You want to teach me immortal cultivation? Don't you? Of course, Wang Xintong was willing. This was something that all martial cultivators in the entire Hua nation yearned for. Although she wasn't interested in martial arts, the world had changed drastically, and the cultivation of martial cultivators had become more and more important. Yes, but Jiang Xiu said, it's fine as long as you want it. I'll give you the secret technique, but how much you can achieve will depend on your own ability. You're not qualified to be my disciple. Tianqing School was very strict when it came to accepting disciples. However, things changed when it came to Jiang Xiu. It was completely up to his personal preference, but there was still a prerequisite. They had to be talented enough. Wang Xintong muttered. Would it kill you to say something nice? Promise me one thing. A what? Jiang Xiu said. Take good care of my parents. There's nothing here that I'm reluctant to leave. After the trip to East China, I think I should be able to leave. He stood up and walked to the side of the deck. His gaze was cast towards the pitch-black night sky. He seemed to see a flying sword in the boundless universe, dragging a courtyard full of cultivation materials as it flew over here. The world of mortals was laughable. Infatuation was the most boring. You're leaving? Where are you going? A place you can't even imagine. The saintess' power was limited. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been burned to death. She was at most a catalyst. The real thing that could allow the other world to descend was the longevity talisman. Jiang Xiu had reason to believe that it contained the great Tao of the world, especially the complete great Tao of space. If he could successfully obtain it, he felt that he had a great chance of breaking through to the intermediate god level. Once he became a superior god, he could soar through space and return to the immortal martial continent. Then when are you coming back? Coming back? Jiang Xiu shook his head. It's a 300-year journey, and I still have to go back and forth. When I come back, the world will have already changed. Things will remain the same, but people will have changed. You'll all be skeletons, so I won't be coming back. Wang Xintong's eyes reddened. Tears silently fell from her eyes. Then. In this world no one and nothing could influence Jiang Luoxia's decision. Can you bring me along? Wang Xintong looked at his figure standing in the wind. Her tear-filled eyes were filled with pleading. Only when Jiang Xiu's back was facing her did she have such courage. No, your physical body can't withstand a trip to space. Wang Xintong said. I'm willing to die on the way. Even if she was blown into a pile of bones on the way, it was still better than staying here. The violin's serenade was about to end. The wind on the river gradually grew stronger, and his hair fluttered in the wind. Jiang Xiu didn't reply. He was silent, but this was a rejection. I want to dance for you. Not interested. The ferry on the far shore let out a long whistle. The people coming and going were hurried. Perhaps his family was waiting for him to return. This was the joy of life. He loved to part, but he couldn't ask for it. That night, Jiang Xiu was at home. He was holding the book Cheng Lingsu had bought back then. He wanted to find the clues in the book and the author's wild imagination to find the truth about the last 2 human extinctions on Earth. In other words, he wanted to find the origin of Baizhuang and the snake demon god. The doorbell rang. Jiang Xiu thought it was his parents, but when he opened the door, he saw a person he had already planned to forget. Why are you here? Cheng Lingran was carrying fruit in her hand. She was always like this, polite and considerate. I'm here to thank you. Can I come in? Jiang Xiu nodded slightly. He took the book and turned to walk back. No matter what, he would never treat Cheng Lingran coldly. Looking at the gentleness on her face, his heart would soften. Have a seat. Cheng Lingran looked at Jiang Xiu's new home. The location was excellent, and it covered a large area. However, he was the only one in such a large house. It seemed very lonely, and there wasn't even a servant in sight. Jiang Xiu liked quiet, and he didn't want to be seen when he was cultivating. Thank you for my family's matter. Jiang Xiu smiled faintly. No need to thank me. We agreed. I should do it. Cheng Lingran lowered her head. Do you want to drink something? No. Cheng Lingran looked up at Jiang Xiu again. After a while, she bit her red lips and said, Su asked me to come to you. In the eyes of the Cheng family, the reason why Jiang Xiu let them go was not because of the three of them. It was only because of Cheng Lingran. Only Cheng Lingran had a good relationship with Jiang Xiu. Cheng Lingsu even saw her sister having supper with him in Hangzhou. Su she wants. Jiang Xiu had never seen Cheng Lingran so hesitant. What does she want? She wants a demigod martial technique from you. Cheng Lingran mustered up her courage to say this. She was too embarrassed to say it. Although she did not walk this path, she understood the value of a demigod martial technique when they chatted at the dinner before the exchange. This was a very excessive request, but she had no choice because her sister kept pestering her. Jiang Xiu smiled. This was indeed Cheng Lingran's character. She was always thinking for others. Wait for me. Jiang Xiu returned to his room. It did not take him more than 10 minutes to write down an immortal martial technique. Now that a different world had descended, they could cultivate immortal martial techniques. Cheng Lingsu's body also contained a considerable amount of spiritual power. Then this is it. Remember not to spread it. This is not a comic book sold by the roadside. Cheng Lingran took it and nodded, but she still stood there and didn't leave. She was a little embarrassed and didn't know what to do. She reached out and played with the hem of her dress, twirling it around. Her pretty face was flushed, and her ears were red. Jiang Xiu said, Is there anything else? Then don't you need it? What do I need? Jiang Xiu was a little confused. Cheng Lingran's face was so red that it almost dripped blood. I can't take your book for free. Hearing this, Jiang Xiu wanted to laugh. She really treated this as a transaction. At the same time, he was a little annoyed. She really treated him as such a person. I said that the last time will be the last time. Cheng Lingran's shyness slowly faded, and was replaced with sadness. Was this really the rhythm of drawing a clear line? She lowered her head and avoided Jiang Xiu's gaze. She softly said, Oh, it's so late. It's not convenient for a girl to go back alone. I'll get someone to send you back. Okay. Sitting in the car, Cheng Lingran was a little absent-minded. She hugged the book Jiang Xiu gave her and pressed it against her chest. An indescribable sadness welled up in her heart. She turned her head and looked out the window. Tears silently fell. Finally, her shoulders twitched in pain, silently twitching. Chapter 378. Nangong Ko, didn't expect that the photos she sent out wouldn't cause any ripples. She thought that she might have made a wrong judgment, but then she realized that she might have underestimated Jiang Luoxia's arrogance and confidence. No one dared to go against him, and Nangong Ko, was sure that she wouldn't dare to make it public. In fact, Nangong Ko, didn't dare to do that. Even if she dared to, her family wouldn't dare to do that. Jiang Luoxia's massacre in Jiangnan, especially the news that Zhuge Shi had been killed even though he had escaped to Dao Yutai, made people who had been scared out of their wits even more think that he was extremely cruel. Now the nobles in Jiangnan didn't even dare to mention Jiang Luoxia's name. Once they heard his name, they would feel a chill down their spines. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that children didn't dare to cry at night. Nowadays, mentioning Mr. Jiang was a great taboo in Jiangnan. It seems that this trick won't work. Yes, you're right. I underestimated Jiang Luoxia. It seems that it wasn't a coincidence that this guy could rule Jiangnan. I've learned something new about him. Miss Ko's impression of Jiang Xiu was that he was heartless and an animal. Of course, she also remembered that he had rushed into the sky with a nuclear bomb that day. However, she didn't think that he had the potential and wisdom to be an ambitious and ruthless person. Now Miss had to admit that Jiang Luoxia was already an ambitious and ruthless person, and her trick couldn't make any waves in front of him. But I won't give up so easily, Nangong Nan said worriedly. Ko or don't act recklessly. You're facing Jiang Luoxia. If you're careless, our family may suffer unimaginable terrible consequences. Don't worry. Nangong Ko said with hidden bitterness, Mr. Jiang doesn't care about me, but I'm enough to deal with Cheng Lingran. What do you want to do? On this day, there was a rumor in Jiangnan that Jiang Luoxia had left Jiangnan, and his destination was East China. For a time, it stirred up 1,000 waves. Although the news was only spread among a small number of people, the degree of sensation was enough to alarm the fishing platforms. The big boss called Wang Xintong on the spot during the important meeting. The news he got was that Jiang Luoxia really went to Huadongsheng. The problem that the Diaoyu restaurant had been trying to avoid had happened. The king finally met the king. The moment he heard the confirmation, even with the big boss's steadiness, his legs went soft. His first reaction was not to win, but to lose. As someone who had succeeded, their first reaction was always to consider the consequences of failure. However, the consequences were too unpredictable. It was hard to imagine what Bai Zhuang would do if there was no one to hold him back. Why? For the kingdom guarding spirit stone. Wang Xintong's voice was also very low. Yes, the kingdom guarding spirit stone. He is determined to get it. But we can't ignore the big picture. The big boss was very helpless. He realized that he had once again used the so-called big picture to put Jiang Xiu above all else. He took Jiang Xiu for granted, but he didn't know that Jiang Xiu didn't care about their words at all. He had his own plans for how to face Bai Zhuang. Ridiculous, extremely ridiculous. He's not afraid of death. Does he want to gamble with the safety of our country? The central director with the surname Yi said angrily. Acting on his own initiative. Does he have any sense of community? Another central director was also very angry. The meeting was a bit chaotic. A while ago, it was Jiangnan. These 2 days it was Guangdong and Guangxi. The Diaoyu restaurant was very busy. Well, now this happened. The central director with the surname Yi said angrily. Tell Jiang Luoxia to come back. Come back immediately. Many of the central directors present also had the same idea. Wang Xintong said. No one can change Mr. Zhang's decision. Unless you all change your minds and give up the kingdom guarding spirit stone. The central director with the surname Yi said angrily. How dare you? What is this? Is this a threat? Let's not talk about whether he can come back alive. Even if he comes back alive, do you think the Diaoyu restaurant will give him the kingdom guarding spirit stone? Wishful thinking. But as he spoke, everyone present fell silent. Even the central director with the surname Yi quieted down. If Jiang Xiu was defeated, Bai Zhuang would no longer have the power to restrain him. Vice versa, if Bai Zhuang died, who else in Hua Nation could restrain Jiang Luoxia? Plus, with the heaven-defying merit of the return of Hua Nation, how could they not give it to him? After a while someone said, tell him to come back first. This is an important matter. We can't make a hasty decision. Wang Xintong said. It's too late. Mr. Jiang has already entered Hua Nation. We can't contact him. The big boss who had been silent for a long time asked, are you confident? In order to recoup their capital, the Cheng clan opened the 4 buildings for sale at the same time. The price was 10% lower than the price of the skyrocketing property, which caused the people of Jiang City and even the nearby towns to scramble for it. On the day of the opening, the door was not opened, but it was pushed open by the crowd. The shocking profits of real estate were made. The selling price of one building was more than 1 billion yuan. The 4 buildings were opened at the same time, and the capital recovered more than 6 billion yuan. The Cheng clan's assets tripled in just 2 days. Cheng Lingran was very busy. She could be said to be proud of her success. She picked up her phone from time to time. She found that she hoped that Jiang Xiu would call her like before. When people were in pain, they would choose to bear it silently and not want others to know. However, when they were happy, they would want to share their happiness with someone. She hoped that this person would be Jiang Xiu. Before this, the two of them had a conflict. It was unforgivable and irreversible. It was obviously his fault. She couldn't call him to make up. Moreover, she felt that her relationship with Jiang Xiu was too dangerous. She was very afraid. The phone rang. She was happy. Could it be minor repairs? She really wanted to go back to the past, to the time before the incident happened. However, the phone showed that it was an unknown number. She picked it up. Hello. Is this Miss Chung Lingran? I have a photo to show you. Chung Lingran heard a pleasant voice. Who are you? I don't think I know you. It doesn't matter if you don't know me, but I know you. Moreover, I have a photo of you and a man. This man seems to be the famous Mr. Jiang. Chung Lingran's pretty face suddenly froze. Who are you? I'll wait for you at the cafe next to the Chung clan building. If you don't come, I'll release the photo to the public. Chung Lingran didn't know what kind of photo the other party had taken. She felt guilty. She was very afraid that it would be that kind of photo. Her face began to turn pale. Okay, I'll come. What Chung Lingran didn't expect was that the person sitting in the cafe was an unbelievably beautiful girl. Behind her was a bookshelf full of books. She was singing a lazy Scottish song, which made her exude a strong artistic aura. She was like a beautiful scenery on the roadside. Such a girl was actually a bad person who wanted to threaten others. You're very beautiful from afar, and you're even more beautiful up close. No wonder Mr. Jiang likes you. Nangong Ko said with a smile. Have a seat. What would you like to drink? Chung Lingran said. Where's the photo? She was very worried that the photo would be used as a trigger. Then, Nangong Ko took a photo of Jiang Xiu pestering her, and pushed it to her on the table. Chung Lingran picked it up and looked at it. She tried hard to control her emotions. Although it wasn't a scary photo, it was enough to kill her. The main reason was that she knew about her relationship with Jiang Xiu. What do you want? Nangong Ko said. Miss Chung, don't be nervous. I won't do anything to you. I just need you to do me a small favor. You want money, right? Don't play games with me. You know what kind of person Mr. Jiang is. In the past 2 days, the Chung clan's real estate projects had exploded. It was too eye-catching, and some people were jealous. She could get a few hundred or even tens of millions of yuan now. The main reason was that she could solve this problem cleanly and avoid any more trouble. Money. I don't need it. I just need you to do me a small favor. Huh. This was out of Chung Lingran's expectation. Nangong Ko looked at the girl in front of her with a complicated expression. You just need to say something to Mr. Jiang. Tell him that Emperor Wa Biotech is your friend, and ask Mr. Jiang to take care of it. You overestimate me. I don't have that kind of influence on Mr. Jiang. No, you underestimate yourself, Nangong Ko said. Didn't Jiang Luoxia set up a divorce with your sister Chung Lingsu to pave the way for you? For a man to come this far, what else is there that he can't give up? Chung Lingran was stunned. What did you say? Her head was buzzing. She had always hated Jiang Xiu for abandoning Su Su and deceiving her. But she had never thought about this. Then she remembered Jiang Xiu's words. He asked her to marry him, but she refused. You don't tell me you don't know that the person Jiang Luoxia loves is you? Chung Lingran's beautiful eyes widened, and she shook her head in disbelief. How could it be? How? You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.